Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
David, give me a microphone. I genuinely think that we will be very successful today on Talk Breakfast. Good morning. It is 2 minutes past 6. This is the home of Common Sense Talk Breakfast. I'm Mark Dolan. A big 4 hours coming up, and we've got the dream team. We've got Chris directing our TV output. We've got Tommy on the phones, 03444991000. We've got our engineer Dave, who is the king of this building. If he pulls the plug, it's over. And the captain of the ship, and let me tell you, it is the Herald of Free Enterprise. It is the Titanic, but it's... no, it's not. No, both of those were unsuccessful voyages. It's the Harmony of the Seas, and our executive producer, Dave Spencer. Top of the morning. Your weekend starts here. It is 3 minutes past 6, and I've got so much to get through in today's show. A shocked, leaked poll reveals the Conservatives are on course to win just 14 seats at the next election. 14 seats. It's over. It is over. So does an absence of competition on the right of politics now guarantee a Reform victory at the next election? I'll be tackling these issues across the next 4 hours, including in a special Dolan's Dispatch at 8 a.m. The Tories are a shadow of their former selves, and now, by the looks of it, a ghost as well. Meanwhile, more bad headlines for the BBC as a leading member of the board resigns in fury over the governance of the corporation. Meanwhile, fresh scandal for their biggest show, Strictly, and the authorities in America now investigating our national state broadcaster over the Donald Trump edited speech fiasco. The BBC is a hot mess, and we'll be dealing with it in no uncertain terms later in the hour. Speaking of the White House, by the way, not only are they going to try to sort out our national state broadcaster, the BBC, they're urging Britain to take action over an immigration crime wave. How right they are, which begs the question, are Shabana Mahmood's changes to Britain's immigration policies all they're cracked up to be, or is it hot air? And never hear Keir. Why does the Prime Minister spend so little time in this country? Does he realise that it's game over for him too? And in an interview in the last 24 hours, he said he wants 10 years. 10 years? Do me a favour. He's not just abroad, he's on another planet. Can't lie, I think he looks broken. I think he knows it's over. But my priority for the next 4 hours is to get your opinions on the national television and radio airwaves. 03444991000 is my number. Book your place on the show. Let's talk to each other and let's drop a few truth bombs. Tommy's on the phones this morning. He's had 3 cups of tea. He's had 3 shredded wheat. He's had 3 slices of bacon. He's cooking with gas. Text the word talk in your message to 87222, and you can send us a voice note as well. So much to get through. You can listen to us on the radio. If you want to watch the show, just head to Google. No, you don't. Where do you go? YouTube. That's right. YouTube, and then search Talk. I'm sorry. I'm a middle-aged man. I don't understand the internet. Go to YouTube, search Talk, and up we pop. And it's a TV show. I can't lie. NGL. But it's all about your opinions, and as the saying goes, let's talk. And let's have a look as we kick off the first hour at tomorrow's front pages today. And my goodness, we've got so much to go at. Daily Telegraph, that is the lead story on Talk Breakfast this morning. Tories on course for just 14 seats at the next election. The Tories would hold on to just 14 seats if an election were called now, according to polling circulating inside Conservative Party headquarters. The research suggests the Tories would be obliterated in what one insider described as an existential threat to the most successful party in British electoral history. Ashes off to a flyer. Michael Vaughan hails the most exciting opening day to an Ashes ever, in which England were bowled out in just 32.5 overs before taking 9 wickets in 4 hours. None of that means anything to me. The only aspect of cricket that interests me is what they call tea, which is, I think, when you stop playing cricket and you have tea and cake. And that is the bit of cricket I can get behind. Take peace deal now or else, says Trump and Putin. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin have told Ukraine to agree to their peace plan by Thursday or face defeat. I've got to say it's a difficult one because we want this war to end. It otherwise will be the forever war. But what Ukraine are being asked to do is to cut their military in half and to give up land that Vladimir Putin has not even conquered militarily. So it's a hard sell. Let me know what you think. Should Ukraine do that deal? 0344 499 1000. The Sun newspaper, Britain's best-selling national newspaper, royal exclusive, and oh boy, this is a corker. When you get a second, there you go. Chris has got the old front page up on our TV outlook. This is a TV show as well. It's TV and it's radio. It's on. We are the future, okay? We are the world. We are the children. The Sun, royal exclusive. Fergie time. Sarah Ferguson considers offers for a tell-all TV interview. 6-figure sum for first chat after losing title. Sarah Ferguson is considering offers for a tell-all TV interview in the wake of her public downfall over links to sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. US channels are said to be willing to pay 6-figure sums, that's right, millions of dollars, to secure the chat with the former Duchess of York. It would evoke memories of her ex-husband Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's car crash. Newsnight interview, a source told The Sun last night. Andrew's had his chance to tell his story. Now it's #Fergie time. Daily Express. Honour brave heroes hurt in line of duty. Police who are injured and forced out of their jobs may finally get recognition. An injury in service medal is being discussed in Parliament this week. And Captain Marvel's Stokes inspires England to thrilling start in the Ashes. Dame Esther warns peers, do not sabotage our democracy. And backed by popular demand, the format you love, 10 pages of great puzzles. Do you know that it's a little bit of an issue, isn't it? If you're on the radio and you're on TV and you just read everything that's in front of you. And I've literally just read an advert for the puzzle section of the Daily Express. I can't lie, folks, this show may be 4 hours long, but it's all scripted. I've never had an original thought in my life, and whatever is presented in front of me, I will read. Dolan, you're an idiot. You've got no future in broadcasting. Producer Dean.
No
way. The dulcet tones, ladies and gentlemen, of the one and only Paul Cox, who's a broadcaster and comedian, which makes him a double threat. Good morning.
Good morning, Mark. So good to be here.
So good to see you. I've got a few more front pages that I'm going to get through, but let's jump, if we can, into the lead story of the day. And I think it matters because the Tories are the most successful party in the history of this country politically, and in fact, apparently across the history of Western democracy. But 14 seats. And this poll, of course it's speculation and there isn't going to be an election tomorrow, but this poll is significant, Paul, because it's been leaked to the Telegraph. It's internal polling, which is in the property of the Conservative Party, and therefore it carries weight. The issue they've got, I think, is that if there was an election tomorrow, it could be 14 seats. Things are not going to get better for the Tories, are they? Probably only worse.
No, I don't think they are, because most sensible-minded Tory voters now are looking towards reform to answer their questions. And let's not forget that it wasn't just 14 years. It was a very tumultuous 14 years with some massive, huge, seismic political events during that time. Brexit, COVID... Yeah. The economy diving, mass immigration, the Boris wave, you name it, they presided over it.
The energy prices as a result of Vladimir's invasion?
Absolutely. We bet our energy future indirectly on Russian oil. What a ridiculous thing to do. We find ourselves buying, we all think we're not, but we're buying Russian oil through France.
Of course we are.
And, and we're told, get this, Mark, this is hilarious, we're told that the future is renewable, and we've got to wait the 50 million years before that works out. When we've got all the oil in the world sat in the North Sea, which we could use.
Donald Trump said it's really beautiful oil.
It is. I should imagine it's some of the most beautiful oil in the world.
Because, you know, there's good oil oil and bad oil.
It's beautiful.
It's a little bit like, you know, beer. You've got your Fosters, and then you've got your Kronenberg, and then you go up to the craft level. And apparently that's what we've got, is 20 years of craft. But and of course the other issue, which broke yesterday, is that energy bills are going to go up for everyone in January, whilst the cost of wholesale gas prices drops. So we are literally going in the wrong direction.
We are, and we tend to buy our gas at the top price as well. We sell it on at the top. We even sell it on at a price. And I'm no expert at this. I'm just about to sound like I am, okay? So don't write in asking for advice. But we do buy it at a price and sell it on at another price. We sell it on. We hedge our bets. So we sell it on at the highest possible price to the good people of the UK, just in case they fluctuate during that time. So basically, because we have no fuel sovereignty, we are always going to be paying much higher than anyone else in Europe, and that's true. That's been borne out in our prices.
Even higher than Germany.
Even higher than Germany, and I thought we won that war, Mark.
But you're so right about that, and it's you know, you can't have a growing economy if energy prices are high. You can't have jobs in industry if energy prices are high, and it's inflationary, and it affects our viewers and listeners who right at the moment are shivering in their homes, afraid to turn the heater on.
Absolutely, and the Tory party was succeeded by a Labour Party that have no idea how to manage growth at all. They place welfare above growth. They don't realise that you can get good welfare through great growth. They have no idea what to do with the economy. Rachel Reeves on the 26th of November, which is this Wednesday, is about to deliver probably one of the most devastating budgets that we've seen in our lifetimes, Mark.
Yeah.
And they've U-turned on things. They floated things to see if we like them or not. We've all gone, no, we don't like that. So they pulled that back, and they've come up with something even more ridiculous. God only knows what they're going to end up with come Wednesday.
Well, that's right. It's the hokey-cokey. They were rolling the pitch for a manifesto promise to be broken, which is raising income tax. Then they said, actually, no, we're not going to do that because the OBR are quite happy with the numbers. But then in the last 24 hours, Keir Starmer does an interview with Beth Rigby off of Sky News, and he will not rule out breaking a manifesto promise on taxes on working people. So it's in, out, shake it all about.
And even she, good old Beth, is now no longer his fan. The Riggers. The Riggers, as she's known to us.
What he's done is he's actually hashtag lost the Riggers, hasn't he?
Yeah, hashtag definitely lost the Riggers.
Because I noted that Sky News have gone a bit cool on Starmer, and so have The Guardian even.
Which is, when The Guardian don't like you and you're in charge of Labour, then you are doomed. And by the way, all this spending time abroad, it's not just hiding from the punters. I think he's handing out his CV wherever he goes. He's looking for his next job, Mark, because I'll tell you what, it's not here.
No, and he won't struggle to get a job overseas.
No, because everyone's looking for highly qualified Wallies, which is...
Well, this is it. And also, without wishing to be too, egregious about this, he is a globalist shill. This is the guy that he said, oh, take Davos over Westminster, which is quite stunning for a UK politician.
It is. Normally you're given some sort of mental health treatment when you say something like that. In our country, you're given the top job.
Well, it was really funny because when he was asked that before the election, he wasn't expecting the answer, and you could see the cogs turning in his head. And what he did is he made a mistake and said what he thought.
he told his truth.
There wasn't time to lie.
No, but by the way, there's a massive cohort, and they're all in Whitehall. These people do believe that. They bet our future on something outside of the Houses of Parliament, outside of the UK, and they've encouraged lots of people to come into the country and follow them. And do you know what? This is where we find ourselves in 2025. It's not going to get any better. The Tory party, by the way, are doomed. Whether we like this or not, they are doomed. There's no point in them buying flats after the next general election. They might as well buy one house, share it all, just stay in it somewhere, maybe in Canada Water where it's a bit cheaper, and that'll be it for the Tories.
I think what is de rigueur at the moment in the capital is tents in central London, and that might be quite nice for those 14 Tory MPs.
Can you imagine?
Just on Park Lane, alongside the Romanians. and the
just what they deserve.
The Afghans, and the reason I say that is because yes, Labour have been a disaster, and they're going to make things worse. But the immigration issue, the boats and legal net migration, This is all a legacy of the Tories.
It is. It is the legacy of the Tories. But Labour did have 14 years in opposition, by the way. I know we keep saying 14 years of Tories, 14 years of Tories. Imagine being in opposition for 14 years and having all that time to come up with the solutions and then delivering what they've delivered in the last 19 months. That is mad. That, to me, is worse than the 14 years in power.
You're right. You're right. And perhaps there are so many really bad policies that we've had under Labour, including the Chagos Islands giveaway and the October budget of last year, the Halloween budget. But one of the other things, maybe the worst thing, I think the budget's got to be the worst because it just affects everybody directly. But really problematic is the Rwanda plan because that was axed. Keir Starmer said, I will get rid of it even if it's working. And just the threat of the Rwanda plan was causing boats to go to Ireland. And you had the Irish Taoiseach, the Prime Minister of Ireland, saying, we're not happy with Rwanda because people are already coming here. Yep. And Starmer axed that. And I think if we had Rwanda, I don't think it would have ended the numbers, but I think it would have dented them.
Absolutely. Look, it's undeniable as well. There's plenty of people out there that will deny it and say it was a terrible plan. We have no idea. It was incredibly expensive. But we did see the seeds coming to fruition of what would happen. Now, I'm not saying I wanted everyone to go to Ireland, by the way. At least it wasn't our problem. But, you know, our friends are on the other side of the Irish Channel there. We'd much prefer that didn't happen to them also. But we have a huge problem here, and it's not being solved. And now we've got Shamama Mahood sort of turning into Enoch Powell all of a sudden in order to try and resolve the issue. They have no... Do you know, I almost feel sorry for Labour voters right now because they have voted for something. They've not got what they voted for. They've got nowhere near what they voted for, and neither is the rest of the country. And they are just like this sort of windsock in the political winds, picking up any populist stuff. By the way, if Mahmood wants to deliver her policies, she will have to join Reform because there's no way she's going to do that under Labour. Well,
you're so right about that. And the elephant in the room is the ECHR, the European Court of Human Rights, which is going to make it impossible for her to execute her tougher stance on immigration status. Because what no one's mentioned is that it's going to be really hard to deport people once they don't get indefinite leave to remain. So a lot of what she said is rather on the surface. You know, it's window dressing, really. It looks great, and I'm very happy with the direction of travel. And I'm glad now you've got a Labour Home Secretary of colour who will have these policies and therefore can't be called far right. So it's helpful for the national conversation, but whether it actually delivers the goods, I have my doubts.
Well, I don't think she will because there's too many barriers in the way. First of all, is her own party, a whole cohort of backbenchers that already don't want this to happen. We looked at is it Caroline Dania or I forget her first name, from the Green Party, her reaction when she was presented with the truth, which is that the Greens talk a good game, but when it's in their constituency, say not in our backyard. And she went absolutely bonkers at this. But that's what's going on across the rest of the backbenches in the Labour Party, and we're not going to see it get through there. And if it does, it's not going to get through the human rights lawyers. Somebody has to come in and scrap the ECHR, rebuild it in a way that enables the UK to protect its borders and protect any future that we might want, including growth.
Yes, the person you're talking about, Deputy Leader, Co-Deputy Leader of the Green Party, Rachel Millward, who said all refugees are welcome except where I live in a £1.6 million house with a snooker room and a swimming pool.
Yeah,
right, what she should do, she should take some of the migrants in that lavish property of hers. They'll enjoy the snooker, and we know they're strong swimmers.
Oh, by the way, it doesn't matter what policy anyone brings at this point, there are hundreds of thousands, millions of illegal immigrants in this country that we're not doing anything to sort out. It doesn't matter what you do now, 50 million horses have already bolted.
You're so right about that.
So, you know what, we're going to have to have I hate to say this because it sounds radical, but there's probably going to have to be quite a bit of deportation before we can start doing anything.
There is, and I think where I'm grateful to Reform, to Rupert Lowe and others, is that the notion of deportation is now not politically toxic, and it shouldn't be, because if you've entered the country illegally, you have no right to be here. If I did that in Australia or China or Russia, the same would happen to me, and that's how it should be.
Well, the way I try and describe it is if someone breaks into your house, you don't make up the spare bedroom and say stay.
No.
You kick them out. You kick them out because they've committed a crime.
So you know the deputy leader of the Greens she's got this lavish house. She doesn't want migrants in her area, but I think she should take them, right? She's got a swimming pool.
Because you know what, if you're gonna talk that game, play that game.
Well, that's right. Do you think maybe if they use her pool, do you think they'll chuck their phones in the pool?
At least we know where to find them.
Yeah, she's like, oh my God. She has to get someone round, right, once a week to just get all the passports from the bottom of the pool.
Yes.
And all of the birth certificates.
Yeah, and all the certificates to say how good they are at being doctors and surgeons.
I only say this, Paul, because you've got two choices in life, right? You either laugh or you cry.
Yeah, and do you know what? We're going to have a whole nation of criers at this rate.
Is there a solution for the Tories? I think I might have one. That's next.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
24 minutes past 6, you're listening to Talk Breakfast. Mark Dolan with you until 10 a.m. The Tories are toast. That is the topic of today's Dolan's Dispatch. And I've got a solution for the Tories, Paul Cox. And it's a little bit, it's what I would probably call the Ukraine solution, which is to look at the situation you're in and swallow it, okay? Accept reality. So in Ukraine, poor old Volodymyr Zelensky has got to give up land that Russia haven't even conquered and cut his army in half and get a deal across the line. It's an awful deal. I think he's going to have to take it. And I say that with no pleasure whatsoever. Meanwhile, the Tories must accept that Reform aren't just the dominant party of the right, they effectively are the party of the right now. This idea that the Tories and Reform will cancel each other out is gone.
Yep.
Okay? So my solution is that the Tories acknowledge and accept that's it. Reform's the only show in town. They've got to change their leader, get Robert Jenrick in, and get Robert Jenrick to essentially facilitate some kind of friendly collaboration with Reform, given the fact that they mostly agree on everything, and roll over basically to Reform? What's your view?
It's interesting. I mean, normally a change of leader does change tact and re-energises a party. I think it's beyond re-energising. It's a bit like a Premier League team that's had 40 points deducted at the beginning of the season, has no chance of going anywhere at all. You can put the best manager on the planet in there and it's going nowhere. Kemi Badenoch is actually starting to show some green shoots of possibility of being a good leader for the Conservative Party. I think she's had it difficult up to now. Although that said, it's been a terrible time for Labour, and I don't think that Kemi's been able to capitalise on that. And one of the reasons she's not been able to capitalise on that is because she's kept her powder very dry and said, we're not doing anything, they don't like us at the moment, we're going to hold back and we're going to come forward. The trouble is that all that holding back has meant that Reform have just taken the Conservative space. They've filled the vacuum. Robert Jenrick looks like someone who is very much capable of leading them from the right of the party, very much capable of doing something akin to what Reform are doing. I've met Robert a couple of times. He seems like a decent gentleman, and I can see him doing a good job. I don't see him turning around the fortunes of the Conservative Party, though.
No.
So whoever comes in, basically, the best they can hope for is to go into coalition with Reform.
Well, this is it, and I think that that's got to be the policy, which is, again, I say it with no pleasure on their behalf, but it's managed decline. Right, you accept that the whole project is terminal, and you work on that basis. You had your excellent football metaphor. It's also maybe like a company that's in administration, at which point you no longer have the board and the CEO in charge. You've got accountants who come in and go, right, this business is basically over, and we're going to break it up, sell the assets, try and hang on to a couple of staff and have it as a very nominal enterprise. And I think that's going to be the job of someone like Robert Jenrick, is to essentially facilitate the Tories as a second sort of party to Reform. I cannot see any other way around it.
Unless there's a major story, a capitulation within Reform.
Yeah.
I don't see where that's coming from. Look, I'm going to say something quite controversial now. Any association with Donald Trump, with Nigel Farage and Russia, if any of those rumours that have come from the left wing are in any way true, that's the only thing that could sink Reform, because it could sink Nigel Farage.
Well, it could indeed. I mean, that's an outstanding question, is if Farage were to fall, would you still vote for Reform UK? There isn't really anybody that's got his charisma, his cut
No, he is
through.
Reform. He is the king of the party. You get rid of Nigel, you no longer have Reform, because people are voting for Nigel Farage. That's who they see, and he's been incredibly productive in being this excellent orator, able to get across what the people are thinking and feeling, irrespective of what mainstream media will tell you, irrespective of what politicians at the top of the blob will tell you. Nigel Farage is connected with huge amounts of people in the community.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I personally think that they will probably survive the Russia thing. Farage has made some very robust remarks about a figure within Reform who's turned out to have been a former MEP who's been taking bribes from the Russian authorities, who faces 10 years in jail. And that's obviously not a good look for Reform. I suspect they'll weather that storm. But as you say, if there are skeletons in the closet, and if it's a problem for Nigel, it will be a problem for Reform UK. Dan in Kent says, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, Paul, and good morning, Mark. Dan says the Tories had 4 prime ministers after Brexit, and it was fail, fail, fail on protection of the borders and everything else. We have a Labour socialist government by default, simply because Tory voters stayed at home in protest last election. Roll on 29, when Labour and the Tories will be history. And Joanna in Salisbury says, good morning, Mark. Starmer, 10 years. Conservatives, 14 seats. That's not the most important news of the day. It's expensive, or no turkeys for Christmas. And Tony says, hi, Mark. Be happy we're being invaded by doctors, nurses and engineers. It's a good point, isn't it?
Yeah, so grateful.
Grateful. We don't have to recruit anymore. Forget about, not enough surgeons. Just look to the channel.
And by the way, I mean, anyone who believes that's like mad, absolutely mad. I was trying to come up with the right Ofcom related response to that, because they could just, if you are a highly qualified doctor, surgeon, engineer or whatever, we will welcome you. Just jump on a Ryanair flight, come
Correct.
across and get yourself a job. You don't need to get in a dinghy.
No, that's exactly right. Do you think it's possible that before the next election, Starmer or whoever's leading the Labour Party presses the nuclear button and exits the ECHR? Because I know the backbenchers aren't happy and the grassroots hate it. But if you look at the seismic shift already from Mahmood, and she's only been in office for a few months as Home Secretary, do you think as a matter of survival and self-preservation, they may axe the ECHR? The reason being that if they do, the boats may stop. And at that point, Labour back in the game.
So Starmer and anyone who has got similar politics to Starmer, absolutely not. No way. Starmer is a man who loves the rules. He was a lawyer. He's been told his whole life that he's a clever guy. He's been in rooms with people who've told him he's a clever guy. It turns out he's not that clever and he only has one mode. He is trying to set himself up for a future job that it would be impossible if he left the ECHR for him to take.
Right.
I think Mahmood is operating autocratically. I don't think that anything she's doing is being. It doesn't matter whether Starmer supports it or not.
Yeah,
she's going ahead.
She's a loose cannon, isn't she?
She's on manoeuvres, setting herself up as future Prime Minister.
Yeah.
She possibly could do, but I don't think there's such a large parliamentary party for Labour at the moment, and masses of them want to stay within the ECHR. So I genuinely believe what they'll try and do is say that what we'll do is we'll change the ECHR, because it's all about interpretation. The ECHR has been in place for many decades, and we've just not had the problem because we've not had the influx that we've had. We're now interpreting it in a way that works well for people who want immigrants to come to this country and human rights lawyers. But I don't think that... And by the way, the policies that Mahmood's come up with, basically they just seem a conduit to get to safe and legal routes, which is a left sort of a left policy which will enable even greater immigration. It won't get rid of immigration. No. So they're saying all these sort of tough things at the moment, but if you read between the lines, they're essentially telling us ultimately it's safe and legal routes, and more will be able to come in.
Safe and legal routes is snake oil, isn't it? Well, we have safe and legal routes already. There is a mechanism by which you can enter the country legally and seek asylum, and that's not what people are doing in the Channel. So don't be fooled, folks. Listen, lots more to come. More front pages. This is Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Breakfast at 6:34. Is it game over for the Tories? Well, I think so. That's the topic of today's Dolan's Dispatch at 8 a.m. Very excited about this because there is a brand new show coming to Talk, and it is the very essence of common sense from the fairer sex, the wiser sex, the women, folks. This is a promo for a brand new show coming to YouTube, and it is called Talk Women. Take a listen.
The pleasure of actually going to meet the Reform UK members in Epping. I saw the hotel, and it really is right in the middle of the community. But You know what's really heartbreaking, I think, for them is basically the government saying that your safety, your priorities, and you'll need to come second to international treaties and international obligations.
It leads into the other issues of women's single-sex spaces, full stop. And it's driving me crazy that as a country we're not having the border debate, which is at the crux of all of this, which is, yes, there are some people who are genuinely dysphoric. It's a vanishingly small percentage of the population, and it's predominantly men.
We can see from Kamala Harris's failed campaign that even if you do have every single person in Hollywood behind you and you're paying them $5 million to do one speech for your campaign, it still won't work.
Talk Women coming to YouTube. Just go to YouTube, search Talking Up. It will pop and it will be on the airwaves across Christmas on this network. So excited about that. Very excited about the company of Paul Cox, broadcaster and comedian. And Paul, the White House now are saying that Britain has got to do something about its immigration crime wave. Does it not break your heart that a foreign administration is more concerned about the welfare of our citizens than our own government?
It is a sad indictment on where we find ourselves. And what will break my heart is if it's ignored, because they'll see it as some political game. It's Donald Trump saying it, therefore we should ignore it. Look, the way we should view this is a big brother or a very caring father or uncle saying to us, you have really taken a bad turn here and you need to do something about it. By the way, if we get in any trouble, we need the US. You know, any military action that's required, we will need to be backed up by the US. If we're bailed out by the IMF, we're going to rely on maybe trade with the US to get us out of it. We need to start, whoever is in the White House, irrespective of whether you agree with their politics or not, when they look across the pond and say, you are in a spot of bother here and you've allowed it to happen, we should listen. We should bow our head and say, thank you, we're going to do our best. Because at this moment in time, we are headed down a dark alley.
Most definitely. And the funny thing about Trump, OK, I don't think he's an honest man. I think he says things that are not true. I think he exaggerates, a lot of hyperbole. He may not even be the most ethical businessman in the world, OK? But what I judge people by is not necessarily their words, but actually their actions. And what's he done since he got into the White House? He's improved the terms by which America trades with the world, right? So he's basically, you know, struck some great deals for his own people, brought manufacturing back to America. I think it's Apple that have committed to $20 billion worth of investment in America. That wouldn't have happened without his leadership. Then you've got the deal in Gaza, which no one is really focusing on but deserves huge credit. There's likely going to be an uncomfortable but ultimately conclusive deal to the Ukraine war, and that will come, I suspect, early January. The guy's delivering, and then what he does is he gets off a plane and lands in the UK and has a lot of good policies for us too. And he says, my God, you've got this beautiful oil, why aren't you drilling for it? The windmills are a waste of time, which they are. And then he says that you've got to tackle immigration, otherwise you're not going to have a Britain anymore. So for a crazy man with a slender relationship with the truth, he makes a lot of good points.
He has made some incredibly good points. And look, I agree with everything you said there, actually. You know, perhaps morally, Donald Trump is not the man that we would want to be guiding us. Perhaps he isn't. However, he is the one man in the Western world that has identified that multiculturalism, DEI, selling your country's soul to build an economy on imported labour is not the way to go. It's not the way to build growth. It's not the way to build your economy. It's not the way to build your national self-esteem. Yeah. We don't know what our incumbent culture is anymore. People will tell us there was never one. There was. They are telling you there was never one because they want to destroy it, and they're doing it. They do not care. They do not care. The party that cares doesn't care. The people that care don't care. The people that tell you that they're kind are not kind. They're kind only to their mission, and their mission has led us to this point. It doesn't matter about colour of skin, religion. People have got to buy into our values. If they don't buy into our values, we end up in the mess that we're in. And we are in a terrible, sordid mess.
And it's a quasi-Marxist vision, isn't it, of open borders, of no religion, of a uniform existence, of collectivism. That's really the vision, and of course global.
Yeah, absolutely. This whole idea, I don't know what it is. It's a mix of sort of stupidity, socialism, communism, idealistic nonsense.
It's anti-Western as well.
It is anti. There's no strength. There's no sort of peace through strength. It's just peace is just going to erupt somehow. I mean, where's the critical mass here? When does enough illegal immigration mean that all the crime stops and we end up with growth? None of these people aren't coming here and supporting what we've built over millennia. They're coming here and building it for themselves. It's totally alien to us.
Yeah.
They're not contributing in the way we need them to grow. And you just wouldn't allow it. You wouldn't allow it within your own family. You wouldn't allow it within your friendship group. It just doesn't make sense. And it's like you say, snake oil. We're being sold this dream of multiculturalism, and it's not worked, it's never working, and it's killing us.
And I think that there are figures on the left that have no empathy whatsoever for the British people, and the demonstration of that is that when you have, machete knife attacks and you've got antisocial behaviour in our cities, and when you've got terror attacks as well, then I think the left shrug their shoulders and they consider that a price worth paying for a diverse society.
Yes, but the trouble is...
There's no ever any outrage on the left when these things happen.
No, there isn't, because every time there's some multiple stabbing on a train and we're told it's not a terrorist attack, and we're told to turn the other cheek, essentially.
Because it's a Welsh choir boy.
Yeah, because it's a Welsh choir boy. They'll tell you that it's the right that are the problem, the reaction, it's the noticing. You're noticing a problem, that's bad. Stop noticing the problem, you're the problem. That's not true. We're being gaslit into this.
The pink ladies who are going to be demonstrating in Chelmsford in Essex today, and there'll be thousands of them, and they will be called far right. They're not. They're concerned mothers and grandmas who are very, very worried about the impact on the safety of women from mass migration. And so, there you go. That is Trump calling it out. It just seems to have, occasionally these moments of incredible lucidity and vision. It was in 2018, when he was president in his first term, that he went to Brussels, and he said to the European Union, "You are too reliant on Vladimir Putin's oil and gas." And there was one German contingent in a clip that went viral, and they laughed at him, and they're not laughing now.
They're absolutely not laughing now. And they were laughing then, by the way, knowing full well that he was right.
Yes.
There's no way they didn't know he was right. They as in this country, in fact, Germany closed all their coal mines and managed to reopen them. They didn't. There were some that they didn't mothball entirely. We've mothballed ours. We've got no chance of opening coal mines once again. However, we do have oil in the North Sea, and this is an emergency situation. If we were going to war now, we'd soon have to open that up anyway, because we'd need that oil. Anyway. So why not do it? Because, you know what? Build renewable energy. Do it. But don't make us pay for it. Do it in the background while you've opened up those oil fields, and we are paying relatively cheap energy to grow our country, and then introduce it when, if it's true, it'll stand up to scrutiny. I don't believe it's true, but if it's true, it'll stand up to scrutiny.
Well, I completely agree, and I wanted to mention that earlier, which is I don't think anyone is against renewables, okay? I don't have a problem with the principle of a solar panel. Or wind power or wave power. I don't think anyone's got a problem with that. What we don't want to do is bet the house on it. Because if you look at Germany and other countries that have gone all in with the Green Revolution, all you've seen is sky-high energy prices and an unreliable source of energy, which is not just an economic problem, but a national security issue, as you've said, because if we were at war, the one thing we would need is energy. The one thing we've not got is energy. Good morning, Mark and Paul, says Rachel. I'd like to see a coalition government between Reform and genuine Conservatives. And do you know something? I think that's right. And I think that's why Jenrick should win. In a future leadership contest, he should replace Badenoch, who is not without talent but hasn't cut through. And I think what he needs to do, Robert Jenrick, is turn the Conservative Party into a much more right-wing Conservative movement, which is compatible with Reform, and then they become the sister party. And then all of those wet Tories can do what they should have done all along, which is join the Lib Dems. How about this from... have I lost it? No, here it is. Mark says, Margaret in Yorkshire. Good morning, Margaret in Yorkshire. I hope you're having an excellent Saturday morning. Margaret says, regarding the migrants in the boats coming over the English Channel, has anyone investigated the amount of pollution with the documents and ID that they throw overboard? Margaret, you're absolutely right. It's thousands of people. If it's 50,000 people a year, well, that's 50,000 mobile phones and other such documents. There are so many aspects to this migrant crisis that we've not even touched on, Paul, including concerns about the level of disease coming into this country from people that have entered here illegally. HIV, hepatitis and other such conditions. We won't hear about this because we are being completely gaslit by the authorities.
Well, absolutely true. And the trouble is we can have an open discussion here on Talk fantastically. We're very lucky that we can. But that's not happening anywhere else. And it needs to proliferate. These discussions need to happen. If we don't have honest discussions about what the problems are, then the problems are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger until they're unmanageable, like we find ourselves here in 2025.
Too right. This is a voice note from Pete the Mole on Sir Keir Starmer, #NeverHearKeir.
Good morning, Mark. Going to be a wet one out there today. The only wet wipe going at the moment, though, is Keir Starmer. What with the sad music letter to his son the other day, and now the Joe Biden-style trip up the steps. He's looking for sympathy vote, isn't he? Well, the only vote he's going to get is a vote out of Parliament when there's a general election, and let's hope that's very, very soon.
Brilliant. What a lovely voice note. Keep those coming. What are your thoughts about the Tories, folks? Is it over? Will you ever vote for them? Tell me why you're angry with the Tories. Why are they only going to win 14 seats at the next election? What's the worst thing they've done? 03444991000. Is there any hope for them? Could they win your vote? Let me know your thoughts on that. Plus, a fresh new headache for the King. That's next.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
6:49 is Talk Breakfast. Lovely to have your company. I hope you're having a good Saturday. Your weekend starts here. Dolan's Dispatch coming at 8 o'clock. The Tories are no more. RIP the Conservative Party. And I'll be laying them to rest in a very, very unapologetic Dolan's Dispatch at 8 o'clock. You won't want to miss it. Front page of the Sun newspaper, royal exclusive, Fergie time. Sarah Ferguson, formerly the Duchess of York, of course, is considering offers for a tell-all TV interview in the wake of her public downfall over links to sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. US channels are said to be willing to pay six-figure sums to secure the chat with the former Duchess of York. It would evoke memories of her ex-husband, Andrew Mountbatten's Windsor car crash Newsnight interview. A source told The Sun Andrew's had his chance to tell his story. Now it's Fergie's time. This could be a major headache for the King.
Oh, it is a major headache, isn't it? I mean, it was a catch-22 anyway. What do you do with Andrew and Fergie's, mutually part of that, exclusively part of Andrew and his team? But they're cut loose now, and she doesn't have the protection of the royal family, and she's going to need to make money. This six-figure fee will become 7 figures. The juicier the gossip is.
Yes.
So she's going to be sort of pushed towards saying as much as she possibly can. I think there's going to be a lot of squeaky bums at the palace right now, Mark. I think it potentially could be a big issue. She hasn't done anything too mental in recent years. I mean, I don't think she's as stupid as Andrew. Andrew's Mateless interview in 2019 was possibly one of the stupidest things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's easily up in the top 3 of the stupidest things I've ever seen. And that came from his hubris, his arrogance. I think she's a slightly more shrewd character than Andrew is. But at the same time, what's she got to lose now? This is the problem. They've cut them loose and they've said, you've got to go and make your own way. Can't sign a contract because it's not... we call it the firm, but it's not a business. What are they going to do? They can't do anything about it.
Well, that's right. I run a royal channel on YouTube, and I predicted weeks ago that if you turf Fergie out, she's a loose cannon, she becomes dangerous. And just 2 weeks ago, it was announced that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor will be accommodated on the Sandringham estate at the expense of the King, and that Fergie must go it alone. And I said that's an expensive mistake, because for the sake of a few million quid, he could have taken care of Fergie, at which point the family secrets remain just that. The problem with Sarah Ferguson, Paul, is that she knows where the bodies are buried.
Yeah, she's been out. Didn't they get married at about 86? That's now 40 years ago nearly. She knows absolutely everything. Absolutely everything. So they'd be mad not to have looked after her, and I don't think they have. It doesn't look
and
like
she knows everything about Andrew, so she could dish the dirt on him. But she also knows everything about Diana, because they were close friends. She knows everything about Charles and the relationship with Camilla. She knows everything about Anne and Edward. I mean, it would be quite literally the royal scoop of the century if she were to do it. And as you've said, if she's taking a couple of $1 million from a US network, she's going to have to give them something. This won't be a softball interview.
No, it can't. She's going to have to give something for it, and it's going to be serialised, and there's going to be more, and the more she says, the more she'll get. Maybe this is a shot across the bows. Maybe she's going to go and do this, and maybe encourages the royal family to just pay her to keep quiet.
Well, they might have to, because the other thing about Ferguson is that she is a money-grabbing grifter, right? Cash is her commodity. It's what she lives for. She's profligate. She still thinks she's a member of the royal family. She lives beyond her means and always has. And she needs money. The book deals have been axed because, of course, she's become such a toxic brand. She had to sell. I'm no expert on property, right? Curse the Allsop, I am not. But 4 years ago, she bought a house in Mayfair for, I think, a couple of million. She sold it at a loss of £400,000 just a few months ago. Now, you don't sell an asset that you've got at a loss unless you're in financial trouble.
Not at all. I wasn't aware of that.
400k.
But that actually tells you a lot.
And apparently the house was bought as an investment. Well, that didn't go very well, did it?
No, well, not at all. And as the house in Mayfair, you could hold. There are ways and means. You could hold on to it. You could borrow against it.
Yes.
You'd be mad not to keep it. You'd be mad to sell it at a loss. By the way, I mean, she is all the things you said. I feel slightly sorry for her. She through association with Andrew, she's been thrown out.
Yes.
Andrew may have lost his titles under a lot of scrutiny, but he's going to live a very comfortable life from here on in.
You're so right.
She's not going to. So she might be angry about that as well. You really don't want an angry Fergie.
No, and the issue you've got is her security as well, because, yes, she's now become an obscure figure within royal circles, but she's one of the most recognisable women in the world.
Yep.
And she would be a target for crooks and terrorists and all the rest of it. And God forbid, by the way, God forbid, because she's committed no crime. But it's an issue, it's unfinished business. It looks like, Paul, doesn't it, that Andrew has decided that he'll take this accommodation in Sandringham, he'll go away quietly. It seems a deal has been struck, and I think that's a bulletproof deal. I think Andrew's a lazy man. I've been reading Andrew Lowney's book about the former Duke, and he likes watching TV, riding his horses, and driving the Range Rover in royal property. He doesn't need much more than that. He's not the sharpest tool in the box. He'll be quite content. Fergie, on the other hand, a loose cannon. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because she's always, in a way, been something of a thorn in the side of the royal family.
Yeah.
You know, this is a woman that brought headlines about toe-sucking back in the day, following her divorce from Andrew. And she always cut quite a sort of comical figure within royal circles. She was uncouth. She sort of spoke out of hand. She was unpredictable, a bit wild. She's never been great for the royals.
No, and I don't think she's going to be now either. and you know what, if you look at this from her perspective, why should she now? Why should she?
She's got no skin in the game.
Absolutely no. So she's nothing to lose. She's not going to do anything criminal. So she can speak. She can share her opinion on all of the things that you said, and just do it until the cows come home, until there's enough $1 million in the bank for her to live a comfortable life.
Because actually, we've had controversy from Fergie over the years, but that's within royal circles as a kept woman. So we don't know what the AWOL, sort of no skin in the game, loose cannon Fergie's going to do. She's under financial pressure as well, and that's the biggest thing, is when people need money, they will do anything.
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be great fun for us to watch. There's no two ways. I mean, what do you say? You know, I'm a royalist. I love the royal family. Yeah. But Andrew has been a thorn. It's incredibly toxic. And this is the toxic man's ex-wife. It's going to make great telly.
It most definitely is. And it's proved with the Andrew story so hard for the king to move on. You've still got the American authorities wanting him to go over to Congress to give evidence. He has, in the last 24 hours, refused to do that. But the Andrew story hasn't gone away either, has it? Yes, they've done a deal for Sandringham, but the king, this really threatens to taint his entire reign.
It could do. I already think this king's reign is quite tainted, actually. I know he's not a well man. Hopefully he's recovering, and we all had high hopes for him. But his mother was obviously the pinnacle, and I think a lot of the hopes are now being pinned on William. I think basically we're just waiting for this reign to end. Yes,
because of course the other issue you've got is that Charles and Andrew are brothers. It's the same generation. And what's going to happen when William becomes king is it's the new direction for the family, isn't it? And it's, you know, the young, fresh people. There's no dirt on William and Catherine. They're as pure as the driven snow. And you do wonder, I mean, would the king consider stepping down given his health and given all of the drama and scandal surrounding the family? You know, should he take an early bath? What do you think?
Well, he's not responsible for Andrew. He maybe has a grudge to hold. Andrew was the favourite son. It's the only blot on the Queen, really, the fact that she chose Andrew of all of her children to be her favourite. You know, I don't understand that. Perhaps Anne I could understand, but certainly not Andrew. I don't think he'll ever step down. I think if he's so ill that he needs to, perhaps, but then unfortunately if you're that ill, it's only a matter of time anyway.
Yeah, most definitely. Paul, what a thrill to have you in the studio. Please come back and see us.
I will.
Leading comedian and broadcaster, the one and only Paul Cox. So much more to come in the next hour. And our lead story today, RIP the Conservative Party. A shock leaked poll reveals the Conservatives on course to win just 14 seats at the next election. Is there any way back? What should they do next? Do they axe the leader? Do they just shut up shop and just say this hasn't worked and just get sucked into reform? Should there be a merger of the two parties? Let me know your thoughts. Will you ever vote Tory again? And why are they 14 points why do they risk having 14 seats at the next election? It's all about your opinions. A big hour to come. This is Tour Breakfast.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
.703. Top of the morning to you. I'm Mark Dolan. This is Talk Breakfast. Your weekend starts here. I'm going to set you up for a smashing Saturday. Breaking this morning, a shock leaked poll reveals the Conservatives are now on course to win just 14 seats at the next election. So, does an absence of competition on the right of politics now guarantee a Reform UK victory at the next election? I'll be tackling those issues in today's Dolan's Dispatch at 8 a.m. You won't want to miss it. Meanwhile, more bad headlines for the BBC as a leading member of the board resigns in fury over the governance of the corporation. Meanwhile, fresh scandal for their biggest show, Strictly, and the authorities are now looking into the Donald Trump speech. They're investigating whether a crime has been committed. Our national state broadcaster, a hot mess. The BBC in focus this hour. Plus, are Shabana Mahmood's changes to Britain's immigration policies all they're cracked up to be? And never hear Keir. Why does the Prime Minister spend so little time in this country? Does he think that it's game over for him too? Meanwhile, in an interview in the last 24 hours, he said that he wants 10 years in office. Well, is he living on another planet? I think so. He's not just abroad, he's in outer space. A big 3 hours to come. It's all about your opinions. I want to get your views on the national television and radio airwaves. 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk and your message to 87222. Drop me a voice note. Is it over for the Tories now? Is that it? Let me know your thoughts. And we're on the radio. You can also watch us on TV. Just head to YouTube and search Talk, and up we pop. And as the saying goes, let's talk. And we'll kick off the hour with today's front pages. And let's go, if we can, Chris, to the Daily Mail. Ukraine, Trump turns the screw. Ukraine has been told it has until Thursday to accept a humiliating peace deal or lose US military support. The weekend, PM losing control of Labour MPs before key budget as he promises to help on the cost of living. The Guardian, PM urges Farage to root out reform links to Russia. The Times newspaper, surrender land or lose US support, Kyiv told. And Rachel Reeves, I'm sick of the mansplaining. Before next week's crucial budget, the Chancellor speaks out about trust, pressure and those tears in the House of Commons. The Daily Mirror, whose side are they on? Farage's pal betrays Britain. An ally of Reform leader Nigel Farage was yesterday jailed for accepting bribes from a stooge of Russian despot Vladimir Putin. And in the Sun newspaper, royal exclusive Fergie time, Sarah Ferguson considers a multi-million-dollar tell-all TV interview. Reacting to the big stories of the day, a good friend of mine, retired Scotland Yard Detective Chief Inspector Mike Neville. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Mark. Lovely to be here.
Great to see you. Quick word on the Tories, on course for 14 seats at the next election. No one's surprised.
They're not surprised. Well, they've done themselves, really. One, people just don't trust. My friends are natural Conservative supporters. I remember my mother turning to the Mrs Thatcher when she realised that the woman next door on benefits was earning more money than my mother, who did 3 jobs. That was a real turning point in a lot of people's lives, I think. And you can see the life of Lee Anderson, you know, going from a Labour working class, that's my family, to Conservatives because the Labour had let us down, and now the Tories have betrayed working people as well. And I just think what's going to come back to bite them is this wasted vote argument. What they used on the reform all the time was voting for them is a wasted vote. And you know, the wheel has turned. It's now a wasted vote to vote for the Tories. I think the only people who vote for them are sort of die hard. They will never ever change. Just like I was saying, my mother's wisdom, she used to say in Bolton they'd vote for a pig with a red ribbon on it. Well, it's like Tunbridge Wells, they vote for a pig with a blue one in it there. But I think all that's turning around. But I'll tell you what really strikes me, though, having seen that poll and gone through the numbers, is if you add up Labour, Lib Dem and the Greens, and then you've got the SNP and Plaid Cymru as well, is they still get 50. There's still half the country who think those people should rule. And the danger for reform is not the Tories. It is that the left, they are the real extremists, and they will club together and work it out and tactically vote. Most people who are conservative with a small c, me, you and other people, you know, we vote for what we think's right. These people are extremists and they'll all club together, and that's the danger that reform face, not the Tories.
Most definitely. At the next election, in order to remain in power, if Labour have to do a deal with the Greens and
SNP and the rest of it,
then what it'll do is the administration will shift leftwards. You won't be able to have common sense policies like Shabana Mahmood's alteration of our immigration policies. It will be socialism in the extreme, at which point the country goes down the plug hole.
Absolutely, because they'll just keep, like they always say, socialism works as long as you've got enough other people's money to spend. When the other people's money runs out, you're done for. And these people literally are extremists in the Green Party now. It's always been communism for middle-aged women. And I remember being in Germany in the army in the 80s, and that's where it really started. And what you saw, as you saw the Berlin Wall fall, people swapped those red flags for green flags. They just switched over. They're the same people.
Definitely, and it's a virtuous green mask, isn't it? We're the good people, we're saving the planet, except this is a Green Party that never talks about pollution, barely talks about global warming anymore. It is a socialist agenda, and it's done a lot of damage to Germany because, for example, when Angela Merkel scrapped the nuclear project in 2011, which she proudly announced, that was because of pressure from Green MPs who were propping up her administration, and now Germany's paid the price for that. No nuclear, sky-high energy bills. That's why the German economy is in long-term decline. I don't think it will ever come back.
And relying on Russian gas. That Trump warned them about. But Germany was the hotbed of that green activism, which then spread, and it started to come here as a sort of, buy this washing powder rather than that one because we're not. That's how it was insidiously put into us. Correct. And now we've got all these electronic vehicles. It's been like, buy a diesel one, it'll be cheaper on tax, and everybody buys them, and then they put the tax up. Same with the EV ones. Buy that, be nice, but then we'll load the tax on top. It's the left-wing way. They need money. They need money all the time.
Most definitely. What now for the Tories? Because they face extinction at the next election. My view is they must replace their leader, who is not an untalented woman. You know, she's got something about her. I agree with a lot of what she says, but there's been no cut through. So I think she's got to go. My view is that you bring Jenrick in, and what he does is roll the pitch for a friendly collaboration with reform. I don't see anything else other than the white flag.
I absolutely agree. So Kemi Badenoch to me, she's a talented and she's a nice lady, no doubt, but she always reminds me when she's speaking of a primary school teacher telling the boys off for playing with flies or something. It's the way she speaks in that, it's sort of condescending way, really. And that doesn't come across well. And I just think people just feel betrayed. You've got weirdos like Philp. I've actually met Philp. He's a very, very strange individual. Very odd, I thought. And I think Jenrick is their one hope. But what other people are saying to me, though, it's like when Nadine Dorries went to Reform. What does she bring? We don't need the Reform Party. Do not need sort of second-raters. What? You know, I can understand if Jacob Rees-Mogg went across, or Jenrick went across. That would be a talented person with a bit of character who brought something to the table. But a lot of Reform voters I'm speaking to, they simply don't want duds who are transferring because they can see that the power is waning away, and all they're doing is moving to Reform because that's where the votes are. They know they've finished, and I think it's a good thing. What we've had for like over 100 years is this dichotomy of you vote in the Tories and they carry on for 3 terms, then they mess it all up. Somebody takes a few quid. Every generation has got to give Labour a go. Every generation has got to learn the same stupid lesson because all these young folk, yes, we'll Oh, share nicely. Oh, right, until you get a mortgage and you have to start paying tax, then we don't want to share nicely, do we? We want to have what we've earned. And so we've had this stupid cycle, and look where it's brought us. You don't have to go around Britain. I go to Birmingham New Street Station. Every time the escalator's not working, you get on the bus and there's people shouting and swearing and throwing things at you and whatever else. And the country feels broken. You know, you go to the hospital and you're sat for 5 and 6 hours. And it's all because we've had the same people, and the standard of politicians has gone down and down and down. I would say Mrs Thatcher's first cabinet had 3 men on that cabinet who won the Military Cross. So not only had they made difficult decisions, they'd made them while other people were trying to kill them. So these are top people, you know, top educated people. You know, the Labour Party used to be people who headed trade unions, were hard-working men or whatever else, women who'd done this and that. No, it's full of students who'd get that. I would ban that PPE degree course. That would be tossed out. No more of you. And if you've worked in if you've not worked outside for 10 years, you don't become an MP. These are simple things to change the country.
Well, that's right. Look at America. Yes, he's not perfect, but it's in the leadership of a famous entrepreneur, and he's improved the terms by which America trades with the world. He's closed the southern border. He struck a peace deal in the Middle East. There's probably going to be a peace deal in Ukraine, and he's got the economy growing. So, you know, go figure, folks. People with business experience, people with real-world experience is critical. Speaking of the president and of the White House administration has warned about rising migrant crime in the UK. We'll discuss that next.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast. I can't hear myself. I've gone mad with technical issue there. We're 17 minutes past 7. Lovely to have your company. And we have a voice note. This is Richard in Lancashire on the state of British politics.
Hello, Richard in Lancashire here. Look, I used to be a solid Conservative voter, but these days I back Reform because most of their platform lines up with where I am. But I don't want the Conservative Party to disappear, and I don't want Labour collapsing either. The country needs real competition. So when parties are fighting for votes, they challenge each other, they keep each other honest. If we reach a point where only one party has any real power, we're back to this one-party state in everything but name. The same way market competition keeps prices down, political competition keeps choice alive.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you for that voice note from Richard in Lancashire. Another developing story, the White House have issued concerns about the current levels of migrant crime in the UK. Isn't it strange, Mike Neville, retired Scotland Yard Detective Chief Inspector, that a foreign administration is more concerned about the safety of our citizens than our own administration?
It is absolutely bizarre, but they're right to be concerned. And my experience of crime is that the governments have been trying to cover up the level of immigration crime for decades.
Yeah.
I first exposed the level of street robbery committed by young black men, for example, in the 90s. The reaction was to try and shut down the Commissioner, Sir Paul Condon. And one of the stats I always go back to, and I got this from The Spectator, is that in 1951, in the entire year in 1951, there was 214 robberies reported in London. The population was 8 million. The population is now 9 million, so it's not really changed that much. But there are now 214 robberies every 2 days. And who are the people committing those crimes? So I can trace my ancestry back. I have my four great-grandfathers either fought in the First World War or were down a mine in the First World War in this country. And how many people in jail right now have that sort of ancestry? We've got to accept, if you bring people from places where knife crime is an everyday event, where fraud, in every level of society. People talk about fraud here. If you go to places like Africa and India, it is absolutely everywhere. You try and get a passport at the post office, you've got to slip the bloke a few rupees, you know, rather than... You imagine in this country going to the post office and saying, oh, here's my 70 quid. Oh, no, I want another tenner. Well, get lost.
Yeah.
You know, but in India, that's just the way... That's the way an African country...
That's right, and we take this for granted.
Yeah, we take it that... You know, there are people who are corrupt, no doubts about that, but when it seeps down. I remember an British African guy went to Africa to expose, even at the village when he started putting up his little shelter, that somebody wanted 50 shillings for, all this, and then the boss wanted 100 shillings and all this sort of stuff. So we brought people in from these countries, and it's out of control, really. And I think I was watching a video saying by 2063, the white population will be in the minority. So I'll be gone by then, no doubt. But the facts are that no one ever... If that's a good thing, that's a good thing. But why was it never debated and voted on? You know, but the crime levels are out of control, literally out of control. So you look at, for example, stabbings. You know, the police, hard-working police officers are out there right now facing knives and guns, and they're forever having their finger pointed at them. Oh, you're racist, you're racist, you're racist. They can't help what they have to deal with. So, for example, young black men represent about 3% of the population of London.
Right.
And they commit 60% of the knife murders.
Wow.
Now, the police can't help that. They just got to clear up the mess.
And yet they won't do stop and search.
That's right. So it's no good. You get these Baroness Casey reports. Oh, yes, the young black men are over-policed and all that. What I would say is this, is that if the police were truly racist, if they were truly racist and just evil individuals, they would pick on elderly Asian ladies because they're compliant, they don't fight back, they just take what wickedness was given to them. Yeah. Why would you pick on a young, fit man? That's madness,
who
isn't it?
may be carrying a weapon.
That's just stupid.
You wouldn't do it.
But all the time, the solution... I was watching a video from the Welsh Senate, and Drakeford, of course, who is the sort of architect of lunacy there, because there's more black people in prison than white people by 100,000 of the population, he wants that reduced. He doesn't look at the issues of why are they committing this crime, who is committing it, what they're doing it. Let's support the police, but it simply can't go on. And you know, you hear all these trendy words like gaslighting. I never, what was that? What did that mean? But I know, no, that's what the government have been doing about crime for years. They've been covering it up.
Most definitely, and just in the last 24 hours, a young actress, I know it's just an isolated incident, but there's a young woman who starred in a show called Bridgerton. She's a British actress, beautiful girl, and she suffered a second violent attack in the capital in a year. Now, the first one was an altercation in which her phone was snatched, and it was deeply traumatic. She didn't go out anymore. She lost her confidence, and she said, a year on, I just started to build my confidence again. And she's in central London, and a guy, a man of colour, British man of colour, stares at her in a very sinister way and then punches her in the face. And she's in tears online talking about it. Just a few weeks ago, we had Kirsty Gallagher, I don't know if you saw that video, of her having been approached by someone and kicked aggressively while she walked to her car. Strangely, not even a robbery, just violence. And this is the modern, diverse Britain that we now inhabit.
Well, it's no good keep saying, you know, you like Sir Prince William, or diversity is their strength, but it's no good saying things. It's got to be, people have got to feel it for real. And there's lots of good people of every colour and creed, whatever. Of course, but there's no good keep importing people, particularly who don't, like the boats, for example. We don't have a clue who these people are. We now have the stats because of channels like Talk. We can now debate that why is it that Afghanis are 20 times more likely to commit a sexual assault than a British-born person, because they come from countries where you can get away with anything you want. You can just indecently assault women, and of course it's completely acceptable. You're higher, you're at the top of the tree, they're at the bottom, you can do what you want. Well, that's not the Britain we live in. And you've got, as I keep saying, my youngest daughters live near Bournemouth. I shouldn't be having to tell them about strange men who are hanging around. And I just see it all the time. I was at a railway station in the New Forest, and there's this suspicious-looking character slithering around last night. He looked at me, and I thought, I'm big and strong enough to deal with things. What if I was a woman who was 5 foot tall and this hooded character suddenly appeared? It's just, it is women and girls who suffer. And all these be kind clowns, and, let them all in, they're all victims fleeing war and all this sort of rubbish. I think the population's just had enough.
Are Shabana Mahmood's plans to change the immigration status of people that have come to this country all they're cracked up to be, given the fact that you've got the ECHR, which will make deportations very difficult?
Firstly, to me, it's all talk. What Reform has done is shaken the bag, because the Tories allowed it to go on, Labour allowed it to go on, and now they're seeing that all the flags are flying and whatever else. People are protesting about mass uncontrolled immigration. And what politicians care about more than anything, of course, is staying in power. And one of the things that struck me, Mark, is this rule that, if you come here as a refugee, it doesn't mean you can stay forever. When did that nonsense come in? So, as an example, it's a personal example, when I was in the police, one of my sergeants, his wife was literally trying to get him arrested so she could force through a divorce. And he said, I've got nowhere to go. I said, well, you can live with me. You come and live with me. I've got a spare room. And you know what? He stayed with me for a month. But when the problem had died down, he went back. And it's like, why is it when you come here, there's a war in Libya, a war in Ukraine, war wherever. When you come here, you can come here when you're safe, you go back. You know, why? How does it come to you've won a lottery prize, you can now stay in Britain forever, you can get NHS, all the benefits, pensions, benefits. You know, it's like, and there's always these vicars and bishops telling someone, well, you don't have to look at the story of the Good Samaritan. He used his own money, the Samaritan. He didn't go to the Romans and say, give me some money to help this bloke. He used his own money. He only gave him enough money that he needed when he was injured. And also, he treated him where it happened. He didn't say, I'll tell you what, I'll just take you to Jerusalem and give you a free house and you can live here forever on our money. That didn't happen. It's common sense, but it's madness.
It most definitely is. It's like the welfare state, which used to be a safety net and is now a choice
lifestyle,
of life.
lifestyle choice.
And then it's a big, big problem. And Mahmood, obviously what's positive is that the conversation around immigration and the cost of not just the boats, but actually the legal net migration is now coming home to roost, and people are having that honest conversation, and you're not far right if you talk about deporting people that shouldn't be here. That's a positive move, isn't it?
I think it is a very, very positive move, but what I can see in the Labour Party is really the people at the front are almost like a facade. It's like these are the reasonable people. Behind them are the extremists, and the extremists pull the cords. So when Rachel Reeves says, "Oh, I'm going to take away £10 billion worth of benefits," the cords are pulled in, and that's stopped. And Mahmood will stand up there and say things that she thinks might win votes, but the strings are being pulled from behind, and there is absolutely no will. The far left extremists, they want this multicultural society. They have a religion. It's not a political belief, it's a religious belief that that's a good thing. So what they'll do everything in their power to keep that going.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we've seen the decline of the Conservative Party because of left-wing capture. Essentially, there's too many sort of closet Lib Dems within the Labour Party, Tory Party now. But the left are similarly in the grip of even more left-wing voices. And I think it's probably a legacy of Jeremy Corbyn's time as leader, because that's when so many infiltrated the party, and so many of those backbenchers are much more left-wing than under Tony Blair. Tony Blair purged his party of lefties, and they were all kind of moderate social democrats, which is why we had low taxes, quite strong border control under that new Labour administration. This is a whole different Labour Party.
I don't know. I think Blair was an extremist in his own way, really, when you look at the immigration he allowed in. He was a facade. The Labour Party are very good at creating this illusion. But one of the things that does make me smile is that this guy's been locked up for taking bribes from Russians is a bad thing, but it always makes me slightly amused when I hear the Labour Party talking about it's outrageous that these people have got links with Russia. This is a party that had like people spying for the Soviet Union. It's hypocrisy of the Labour Party. That was all right to be pro-Russian then. It's incredible.
What's interesting now about the parliamentary arithmetic at the next election is that, as you mentioned, the Tories don't appear to be a threat to Reform UK. The issue previously was, well, if you've got Reform, you've got the Tories, then the vote on the right is split, and that is great news for Labour. That's not going to happen in 2029, is it?
No, as I said at the very start, the Tories are going to rue the day, because no, they are it's turned over. They are the wasted vote. If you vote for the Tories, you vote in the Labour Party, all that coalition of madness will come in.
And that'll be Nigel's line.
Absolutely.
Which brings into sharp focus then, if Reform are odds on to win, are they ready for power?
Well, I think it just needs a change. We keep being told we need all these experienced politicians. Well, they've buggered it all up, haven't they? How much, all these clever people that we allegedly told with their PPE exam and qualifications, they've messed it all up. So I think when you look at Donald Trump, just bringing somebody in who's not part of the establishment, who doesn't know how it's done. And I think the lesson from Trump, I suppose, is in his first term, he admits he took an advisors who were from that political class who badly advised him and let him down. And I think it's really important we just clear out the Augean stables, that old myth where Hercules diverted the river and all the animal waste was swept away, and we need the swamp and all the Augean stables in the same way. We don't need these advisors, experienced people, because they've made an enormous cock-up. The country is in a mess. So it can't get any worse. Let's have a new way, new ideas.
Well, definitely. I mean, we had that with COVID, with the so-called experts during COVID. And what did we have? Junk modelling and 3 national lockdowns, which destroyed the economy. But look at countries that didn't lock down. Same outcomes as us, in some cases better. So-called experts.
Yeah, well, these experts are everywhere, aren't there? That Professor Ferguson, he's still working.
Amazing.
The ruination he has brought upon this country. The ruination, the wickedness of... I remember these... it was always like people, oh, you're selfish. And it was like an older bloke who was frightened to death of getting COVID, who was prepared to lock up 4 kids in a council flat and chain up their swings in the park. They were the selfish ones. And what wickedness was done to kids who were being abused, people without heart attack and cancer treatment, the madness of lockdowns. It really... Hancock... Oh, these people are just wicked and evil.
Most definitely. And then the COVID inquiry says, well, actually, we should have had the lockdown a week earlier and we would not have had to have these measures. Do these people think we're stupid?
Yeah, they do think they're stupid. No, what they think is that they're far cleverer than us.
Right.
And they feel that they should be in control. They want it so. They're technocrats. They want to be like the EU, where you don't vote in the leaders, where you just issue the orders. But what struck me, I met a character the other day who thought, oh no, I agree with the lockdowns. Are people insane? But they're like some people. They literally what lockdown did. It was a fascinating experiment to see how most people do as they're told.
Correct.
They do as they're told. I mean, I take great pride. I had one of those like exemption badges. I walked through Waterloo Station without a mask on, and I had the God give me the character, the strength of character to be able to do that. Most people haven't got that.
No, they haven't. It was a diagnostic test of personality, of values and of character. Well, Mike, not for the first time, you were on the right side of history. Will you come back and see us again very soon?
Of course, yeah, with pleasure.
The formidable retired Scotland Yard Detective Chief Inspector Mike Neville. Mike, have a cracking Saturday. Next up, very good news, a breakthrough in the battle against prostate cancer. I've got the inside story.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
It is 7:34. You're listening to Talk Breakfast. A very busy couple of hours to come, including Dolan's Dispatch, in which I shall be confirming the death of the Conservative Party. And what now for Reform UK, who look like they will win the next election, given there is so little competition from the political right. But we always like some good news on Talk Breakfast, and there appears to be a major breakthrough in the treatment of prostate cancer. Let's get reaction from the Chief Executive of Prostate Cancer UK, Oliver Kemp, MBE. Good morning, Oliver. Welcome to Talk Breakfast.
Good morning. How are you?
Lovely to have you on the show. So what exactly is this new development? Because it looks to be very good news.
Sorry, the new development in prostate cancer treatments. Hello?
Folks, we're having a few technical issues. I've lost all sound. I'd like to hear what Oliver Kemp is saying, but unfortunately I can't hear him, which is a little bit of a challenge. The one positive is at least it proves that this show is live. Okay, unlike so much manufactured, pre-recorded nonsense on establishment media. But what we're going to do, we're going to keep this going. We're very, very excited about this. Prostate cancer affects many, many men in this country. And the problem with it is it's a silent killer, because for very, very many people, there are no symptoms, which is why testing is so important. But there's also a debate about how accurate those tests are and the extent to which you can actually diagnose the illness. Now, let's see if this is working. It appears that it is not working. Oliver, can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you.
No, I have to be honest with you, folks. I think this is going to be a 2.5-hour monologue at the moment, because our audio has gone down. Oliver, apologies for this. We're going to have to just put you on hold for a moment, because I cannot hear your wise words. But while we do that, can I bring you up to speed on what's happening in the world? I've got today's front pages, and it's pretty explosive stuff. The Times newspaper, surrender land or lose US support, Kyiv told. Tommy, what I suggest you do, you check the earpiece yourself, and if you can hear me, then once you get the audio, then we know where we are. Now, this is a fascinating story, right? This is Ukraine. We need that war to end, and I'll tell you for why. Because Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine has jacked up energy prices. If a deal can be struck between Russia and Ukraine, the war will end, and what you will see is the wholesale cost of oil and gas is going to absolutely plummet. Now, what that would be is an extraordinary development for our economy, because we would have access to cheap energy once again. Wholesale prices would come down, and we would have, therefore, more industry and a growing economy, and it would bring inflation down as well. One of the main drivers of inflation is the cost of energy. So I think we need this deal, but the big problem with it is that Volodymyr Zelensky, the Prime Minister, the President, I should say, of Ukraine, is going to have to accept giving away land that Russia has occupied in the battle and giving away some territory that Russia has not successfully conquered. So that's a big, big concession, and he'd have to shrink his military in half and promise never to join NATO. So it's a big headache for Zelensky. Which way does he go? I think he has to take the deal, because if not, it will be the forever war. And I'm so sorry, I'm no Winston Churchill. I am no military expert, but I would argue it's absolutely impossible for Ukraine to ever win that war. If there is a peace deal, by the way, what a story that will be for Donald Trump, who surely at that point would be in pole position for the Nobel Peace Prize, having struck a peace deal with not just the Gazans, Palestine, Israel, Hamas, but also in Ukraine as well. And surely at that point, he's no longer this great threat to the world order that the left have characterised him as. Now, I'm going to shift a little bit to a different part of the studio. Is that right, Dave? No, what do you want me to... Actually, write it on the screen. We're going to a break now. There you go. It's live telly, folks, and live radio. More next.
Welcome to Talk. This is where we absolutely speak common sense and reflect the views of people around the United Kingdom. The very thing that's killing children, his words, he's not banning. As long as you pay £12.50. Sick note Britain is thriving. These things can kill. You haven't got to be a dog expert to work that out. Every afternoon here on Talk, you don't want to be going anywhere else. It's as simple, straightforward as that.
So it is Talk, it is Drive Time, Monday through the week from 4 p.m, the show that's going to...
Welcome to Talk.
So it is Talk, it is Drive Time, Monday through the week from 4 p.m, the show that's going to be about you. It's not about us, this is the home of common sense. The things that matter in your everyday life, the issues that resonate with you. Spent 2 years talking at you, I want you to talk at me, I'm tired. I'm getting old. Make it Talk, the home of common sense. We're going digital. Make sure you're ready. Drive Time with JK is on Monday through the week from 4 p.m. Do join us.
Politicians do not tell you the truth. I know that's not the most amazing thing to discover. We are promised the world from our political masters. They're going to solve the channel crossings. They're going to solve crime. They're going to solve the NHS. And guess what? They haven't solved any of it. It's your voice that really matters here. There's nowhere else that will give you the sounding board to the nation on those issues that really matter to you. Only at Talk. Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Talk Breakfast, we put 10p in the meter. We're back on air, 7:43. Lovely to have your company. The Tories are no more. A shocking new poll has the Tories on 14 seats at the next election. That's the topic of today's Dolan's Dispatch. What I think it means is that Nigel Farage will be Britain's next Prime Minister. But what about this front page splash in the Sun newspaper? Royal exclusive, Fergie time. Sarah Ferguson considers offers for a tell-all TV interview. A six-figure sum on the table for a first chat after losing her title. Let's get reaction now from the editor-at-large of the Mail on Sunday newspaper, Charlotte Griffiths. Good morning, Charlotte.
Morning, how are you?
I'm very well indeed, and this is King Charles's worst nightmare. An AWOL Fergie that spills the beans.
Yes, you did actually predict this, Mark, the other day, and I disagreed with you, and I hold my hands up. I was wrong, because you did predict, rightly, that there's a chance Fergie might go rogue. And what The Sun is reporting today is that courtiers are equally as worried she might go rogue, because, of course, she's been completely cut off. She has no house, no status, no money. So really, actually, what else is there for her to do? And if somebody like Oprah is coming forward with a huge money offer, then, you know, actually, really, she'd be a fool not to take it.
Well, I've heard various reports about her finances, and some people say she's got enough cash, but she did sell a Mayfair property at a loss. That was supposed to be an investment, which she sold after 4 years at a loss of around £400,000.
Yeah, that was such an extraordinary house, and I've reported on it since she bought it, because on the deeds there was a clause in it which said she couldn't sell it unless Beatrice and Eugenie agree that she's allowed to sell it, which is highly unusual. And there was a lot of speculation that perhaps it was some sort of backhanded inheritance from the Queen or something, because it's just really unusual to have that caveat on it. But anyway, the girls did agree to let her sell it at a loss, and the reason they claim that it was at a loss is because the tenant that was already living in it said he wanted to buy it. But the timing was extraordinary, because they sold it just before all of this kicked off, and it did free up, you know, £4 million for her. Although she sold it at a loss, she still got £4 million. And I was told that she's reinvesting that money into another property, but they won't say where the property is or what property it is. At one point, people thought their money was going towards Royal Lodge to pay for its upkeep for another few years, but obviously that is now a moot point.
Most definitely. If this interview happens, Charlotte, what might she say?
I think she's very likely to discuss the email that she sent to Epstein saying, "You're my esteemed friend, I'm sorry for calling you the P word." And I think she's going to try and justify that by saying she was threatened by Epstein. And we know from reports that Epstein called her up in Hannibal Lecter style voice and threatened her. And I think she'll go a bit deeper into that, because really what she'll be wanting to do is not so much a mea culpa, but explaining that email, because that email is the thing that's so damning. And I think she'll do it with someone quite serious. I mean, God forbid we have another Newsnight scenario, but I think she would perform better in a Newsnight scenario than Andrew did. I think she might not go for the Oprah thing. So if she was offered Oprah, it would be a huge, huge amount of money. So that would be quite irresistible. But what she really needs to do is something quite serious, so she can fully explain. And it's not just another one of these interviews she does often, really, where she's saying, "Oh, silly me, I'm just silly old Fergie," and "Oops, I made another mistake," on those kind of softer morning show type channels that she often does in Australia and America.
Most definitely. If she is paid several $1 million for the interview, then the broadcaster involved will want some spicy material.
Oh, for sure. She'll have to really go into the thick of it. But actually, Fergie's never really shied away from being very frank and honest. Well, I say honest. You know, she gives her version of the truth. She goes into gory details that perhaps other royals wouldn't do. And, you know, recollections may vary, I'm sure. So I think they would get their pound of flesh out of Fergie, actually.
Do we know how angry she is that Andrew will be accommodated at the expense of the king on the Sandringham estate and that she's been turfed out so that she can either sink or swim?
Well, what I've heard is that I think she probably is angry, but really mostly she's very, very low and in a very low place and has been loafing around, drinking at the outdoor pub that they have in Royal Lodge. It's kind of a makeshift pub. And the girls are very worried about her. It's more a sort of deep, deep depression than anger. But there is some talk that the king might find some minor property for her because to mitigate this risk of her going nuclear and speaking to an interviewer. But the thing is, if it's just some 3-bed cottage, that's not really demotivating for her. You know, she'd probably rather take a couple of £1 million from Oprah than a small cottage. So it's a very delicate game that the king is playing. And I think if she is angry, she wouldn't show it to him because she needs him. She does really need him to bestow some kindness upon her because she's on her uppers.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because she's box office in North America. She was only the Duchess of York and just the spouse of a rather insignificant prince. But she's a global figure, and the Americans are very interested in Fergie, which is why they'll no doubt pay top dollar for her story.
I think the Americans have always loved Fergie. She's managed to kind of go over there. Every time she's had a big crisis, she's gone over there. She's started up some small business or other, selling tea bags, doing little interviews. And they seem to lap it up. So maybe she could go there again. I would say I think it's a well-trodden path for Fergie, and it might not be that interesting. She's actually gone there so many times. She's done the mea culpa with a glossy interviewer like Oprah so many times that really, of course, there's a new context now. But I think maybe she should try somewhere else, like Australia, maybe the Middle East. She might sort of move in higher circles in those kind of regions.
We know that she was persona non grata for Prince Philip, who, it's my understanding, didn't speak to her for years. Do we know what Charles thinks of Fergie?
I think Charles has got a real soft spot for Fergie, and I know that Camilla has a soft spot for Fergie because they've got kind of family connections that go way back through Fergie's late father, Major Ronald Ferguson. So there's quite a strong link, and I heard that one of the reasons the king, until all this scandal broke, has been so welcoming to Fergie is actually with Camilla's encouragement, because she's just very fond of her, which is ironic, really, because of course Fergie was such good friends with Diana. So I do think he wants to do her right. I think he's quite a kind man, the king, and he sees the bigger picture and probably realises she's completely and utterly at the bottom of a rock bottom. And it's actually kind of cruel to kick someone when they're that far down. And it's, you know, a little bit dangerous because we know that she's kind of at a low ebb, and there's a certain amount of duty to care to Fergie, I think.
Well, yes, and do you know, I think perhaps, Charlotte, you're a little too generous to me saying that I called it that she'll sell her story. I tend to err on the side of caution based upon what you told me in our last interview, which is that she doesn't really wish ill will on the royal family. She's not a vengeful character. And therefore, even now, with millions on the table, she may be reluctant to press that nuclear button.
I agree. I do think she is quite an honourable person, which I know is going to get me slammed because it sounds ridiculous. But I think she makes terrible decisions, and she's got herself in a frightful mess. But I think she does have this sort of honourable streak where she just really wants to people please and do the right thing. And of course, she does exactly the opposite at every possible moment. But I do think I agree with you on that she wouldn't really want to hurt or destroy the king or take them down in a Meghan and Harry style way. there isn't that vengeance that Harry so clearly has, and perhaps Prince Andrew has as well a little bit. But they've never slagged off the royal family in public. No matter what they've done, they've always stopped at that point.
Yes, in that sense, Sarah has the breeding, doesn't she? And she appreciates the importance of the monarchy. And if you mentioned that she's on good terms with the king, then that may help her. The issue you've got is if there's money on the table, she will have to dish the dirt. It all depends how desperate she gets. Meanwhile, what's the latest with Andrew, plain old Andrew Mountbatten Windsor? Is he home and hosed now?
Is he home and hosed? Well, he hasn't left Royal Lodge, and he's just had the freedom of the City of London taken away from him. And he barely leaves. So recently he was allowed to go riding around Windsor, and that was because, quite literally, the king needed to get him out of the house. And it was terrible optics for the royal family, because then he was pictured on horseback, which is what they exactly didn't want to happen. However, they had to just get him out of the house. He hadn't left the house for weeks. People were really quite concerned about his mental well-being. So off he trotted around Windsor Castle, but they still really want him to just disappear, and they want to get him to Sandringham as soon as possible. I think that might happen after Christmas, from what I'm hearing.
That's interesting. I mean, Michael Hamilton is the chief reporter at The Sun that's got the Fergie exclusive. I mean, are you buying this story? Because at the moment it is still in the realm of speculation.
Well, if the Fergie doing the interview is still in the realm of speculation, I think possibly there's an offer on the table. The people around her are being incredibly quiet, more quiet than ever, which does make my spidey senses tingle a bit, because often that happens when you've been, as you say in journalism, bought up by someone.
Right.
And so not one single detail can come out. And the person who's very keen on doing things like that is people like Oprah, those big American channels. You know, you're kind of in breach of contract if you let one tiny detail slip out ahead of a big interview. So that's what makes me think maybe there is something going on. However, whether she's signed on the dotted line is unlikely, because she's probably still negotiating her living arrangements with King Charles. But as you said before, you know, the thing is, when money's on the table with Fergie, she cannot resist money. She's obsessed with money. She spends far too much. She's in terrible debt all the time. Her children's book has just been pulped. That was obviously something that she was really hoping would be a financial lifeline for her. So I think that it's still speculation, but only because she's still in negotiation.
Most fascinating, isn't it? We will watch this one with keen interest. And while I've got you, Charlotte, you're the editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, and I've got an international story for you, and I think it's more important than we realise. And it's this proposed peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. Now, I've spoken to military experts, historians, who have said that the risk in Ukraine is a forever war, and one that Ukraine cannot win. The numbers just don't stack up. That's the view of the president, who said to Volodymyr Zelensky in that notorious Oval Office meeting that you don't have the cards. It seems that this deal is going to be a hard pill to swallow for Ukraine. It involves relinquishing territory that Russia have not even won during the course of the war. It involves cutting the military in half and promising never to join NATO. Trump wants this deal done and dusted by next Thursday, but it's a major dilemma for not just the president of Ukraine, but the people of Ukraine too.
The people of Ukraine would be furious if Zelensky gave away land that hadn't actually been won in the war. And I think it puts them in a terrible position. I think as Europeans, we need to really rally round on this, because this is America and Putin sort of ganging up on Europe, from my perspective. I know Zelensky's spoken to camera about this, and I want to watch that today, because you know, from what I gather, he's saying, I'm in a really difficult position and it's going to be almost impossible to decide what to do. And of course he'll be worried about giving away ground that hasn't even been hard won by Putin. It's an impossible scenario. I think possibly Trump's being too bullish this time.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? It matters to my viewers and listeners, because if they can strike a peace deal in Ukraine, wholesale energy prices will come crashing down. Russia gets welcomed back into the sort of G7 economic orbit. And it would be quite a moment for the president if within a year he strikes a peace deal in Gaza and in Ukraine, but I guess not at any price.
I agree, not at any price. I do think it's fantastic that Trump's determined to solve all these wars. But you can't leave a bitter taste in the mouth of the entire of Europe and Ukraine, because then it doesn't feel like peacekeeping. It feels like bullying. I mean, I agree. The idea of fuel prices coming down and bills coming down is extremely appealing, of course, especially as winter kicks in hard. But I do think that it has to be a negotiation. It can't just be them dictating the terms.
Most definitely not. And before I let you go, Charlotte, another big story. Front page of the Telegraph. This is their exclusive. Tories on course for just 14 seats at the next election. It's over, isn't it?
That doesn't surprise me. I mean, the number is hugely low, but that doesn't surprise me at all. I think you're absolutely right to say it looks like Farage is going to be our next Prime Minister.
Yes, and what you don't have now is this idea of competition for votes on the right, I think, if this poll is to be believed. Previously, the great defence of the Tories is, well, you've got to vote for us because if you vote Reform, then that'll help Labour because the vote on the right is split. Whereas now what you've got is the vote on the right consolidating around Farage, and not just that, Reform picking up red wall, left-wing Labour voters as well. This could be the mother of all landslides.
I think it will be the mother of all landslides. You're absolutely right. They're going to scoop up so many votes. And I've just recently moved to the countryside, and I can tell you, when I was living in London, I did not realise how many people outside of the West London Liberal elite vote Reform. I mean, really, absolutely every single person I meet out here votes Reform. It's a real movement. I think it's going to be the mother of all landslides. And, it doesn't bode well for Badenoch, I'm afraid, because she doesn't seem to be able to out Farage. Obviously, Keir Starmer's doing a terrible job of that. I think it's going to be fascinating. It's an absolutely fascinating time to be working in British politics, that's for sure.
It most definitely is. Badenoch's got to go, hasn't she? What about Jenrick comes in and rolls the pitch for essentially a capitulation to Reform, a merger or some sort of deal?
I think that's honestly their best chance, is a merger or some sort of deal, because Jenrick's already tried to out Farage, and it hasn't worked because people are still so furious with the Tories after 14 years. So that's the only thing I think that could work, is to merge the two. But would Farage want the Tory kind of toxic mess getting involved in his kind of clean run at number 10? I don't think so.
Charlotte, what a treat to have you on the show. Charlotte Griffiths is the editor-at-large of The Mail on Sunday, developing this morning, which is the news that Sarah Ferguson is considering a multi-million-dollar tell-all interview on US TV, which could devastate the royal family. But next up, it's Dolan's dispatch and a death knell for the Tories. They've only got themselves to blame.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Coming up to 3 minutes past 8. Happy Saturday, one and all. I'm Mark Dolan. This is Talk Breakfast. Your Saturday starts here. A big 2 hours to come. Breaking this morning, a shock leaked poll reveals the Tories are on course to win just 14 seats at the next election. Does an absence of competition on the right of politics now guarantee a reform victory at the next election? That's the topic of today's Dolan's Dispatch in just a moment. Also this morning, more bad headlines for the BBC as a leading member of the board resigns in fury over the governance of the corporation. Meanwhile, fresh scandal for their biggest show, Strictly, and the authorities in America are now investigating our national state broadcaster over the Donald Trump edited speech fiasco. The BBC is a hot mess, and we'll debate it shortly. Meanwhile, are Shabana Mahmood's changes to Britain's immigration policies all they're cracked up to be? Is it window dressing? I've got the inside story. And Never Hear Keir strikes again. Why is the Prime Minister so rarely in this country? Does he realise that it's game over for him too? He wants 10 years. In an interview with Sky News in the last 24 hours, he said he wants a decade in power. Well, he's not just abroad all the time. This guy lives on another planet. Now, my priority for the next 2 hours is to get your opinions on the national television and radio airwaves. 0344 499 1000 is my number. Text the word talk in your message to 87222 or drop us a voice note. As the saying goes, let's talk. With the Tory collapse, is it now inevitable that Reform UK will be winning the next election? Are you going to vote Reform? If so, why? Let me know. 0344 499 1000. What are they going to do that will be different from the Uniparty? But as always at this time of the show, it is Dolan's Dispatch. The fat lady hasn't just sung, she's on a taxi on her way home. The Conservative Party are so keen on telling us that it's the most successful political party in the history of Western democracy. And their dying flock will be clinging to that statistic for dear life. But it's over. A leaked internal Tory party poll reveals that at the current rates, the Tories may just achieve 14 seats at the next election. You heard me right. They may be competing with the Greens for space on those backbenches. And is anyone surprised? Because ultimately, if you look at the problems facing this country, yes, Starmer and Reeves are a catastrophic double act, and as I predicted, Labour are even worse than the Tories. But in the course of 14 years of Tory rule, the so-called Conservative Party, which is a breach of the Trade Descriptions Act, we've had open borders, with 1 in 25 people in this country having entered in the last 5 years. Mass, uncontrolled immigration is the theft of a nation from its own people. And the party, which claims to be the party of law and order, leaves the front door open of this great nation, allowing hundreds of thousands of people, undocumented individuals, predominantly young fighting-age men, with different values and attitudes to our own, entering the country illegally, discarding their passports and cell phones in the sea as they cross the channel. This is the party that apparently is really good at running the economy, even though they've presided over the highest tax burden since the Second World War and non-existent growth. This is the party of human liberty, that's right, of freedom, but one that pursued the Chinese communist-inspired idea of lockdowns 3 times over 2.5 years in a doomed effort to stop a nasty seasonal respiratory virus, which was going to have its trajectory notwithstanding the efforts of any government. The COVID response was deeply illiberal and unconservative, and therein lies the problem, because the Conservatives are just not conservative anymore. Wokery in our public institutions has run amok under the Tories, with NHS staff talking about chest feeders and birthing people. The Tories didn't build enough prisons, which is why the so-called Party of Law and Order has seen an explosion in antisocial behaviour, knife crime, burglaries, vehicle crime, and daily misery for law-abiding citizens. Women now just get kicked in the street and punched in the face for no good reason at all. Now, in the past, the Tories have done good things, not least Winston Churchill and the magnificent war efforts and his unparalleled courage and leadership. And of course, Margaret Hilda Thatcher, who took Britain from being the poor and sick man of Europe to a global economic, diplomatic, military and cultural powerhouse. She wasn't perfect, of course not. But if she was around today, she would win the next election. But she is not here, and neither are the Tories, because the party that she led is a shadow of its former self. In fact, I'd go further. It's not a shadow of its former self. It is a ghost, because the Tories are over. They must now replace the crushingly disappointing Kemi Badenoch, an intelligent and talented lady, but someone who has all of the cut-through of a dead mouse. Robert Jenrick must replace her and roll the pitch for some kind of cooperation with Reform UK, who are going to win the next general election. All the Tories can do now is assist Reform and Nigel Farage in transforming the fortunes of this country. At best, they are a bit-part player. The exodus of top Tory MPs to Reform will gather pace, and it's of critical importance that Nigel Farage only accepts the true Conservatives, because so many of that backbenchers are glorified Lib Dems. The Tories are finished now, and they've only got themselves to blame. Your reaction, 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk and your message to 87222. Is Nigel Farage now nailed on to be Britain's next Prime Minister? And is he ready for the top job? Next up, let's have a look at some of today's front pages. And that Tory story is the exclusive in the Daily Telegraph. Conservatives on course for just 14 seats at the election, and some good news for this country at last. Ashes off to a flyer. Michael Vaughan hails the most exciting opening day to an Ashes ever, in which England were bowled out in just 32.5 overs before taking 9 wickets in 4 hours. Take a peace deal now or else, say Trump and Putin. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin have told Ukraine to agree to their peace plan by Thursday or face defeat. The US president said the deadline was appropriate after his officials threatened to stop sending weapons and sharing intelligence if the demands were not met. Now, this is a huge problem, because you and I need this Ukraine war to end, because if and when it ends, then energy prices will come crashing down. It'll be so good for the world economy. It will really reduce inflation, because so much of inflation comes from energy prices. It'll be massive for British industry. It's something that we need to happen. But the issue is, for a deal to be struck, Volodymyr Zelensky is going to have to accept the relinquishing of land, not even conquered by Russia, agree to halving its military, and agreeing to never join NATO. That's a major threat to its sovereignty and its territorial boundaries. Should he take the deal? What do you think? 0344 499 1000. The Times newspaper, surrender land or lose US support, Kyiv told. Is Donald Trump being cruel, or is he just trying to end that war? Rachel Reeves, I'm sick of the mansplaining before next week's crucial budget. The Chancellor speaks out about trust, pressure and those tears in the House of Commons. This woman's got a brass neck. She has got a nerve to sit there and talk about mansplaining. You see, she's under pressure now politically because she has utterly destroyed the British economy. And so what she's going to do is do identity politics and, oh, poor me, and I'm a woman, and there's all these people mansplaining. Well, I'd be quite happy to have a man back in number 11 if it means that they can get the economy growing again, get inflation down, get unemployment down, because at the moment, all of the things that affect you and me, the important elements of the economy, the key metrics, are going in the wrong direction. This is a woman, by the way, who wrote her own suicide note politically when she entered number 11 and said, oh, I'm so proud to be the first woman prime minister. No one cares about your gender. They care about the job that you're going to do. Daily Express, honour brave heroes hurt in line of duty. Daily Mirror, Farage's pal betrays Britain. Ex-reform bigwig gets 10 years jail over bribes for pro-Putin speeches. It's interesting. Obviously, what this ex-MEP done is absolutely disgraceful, and he's going to spend 10 years in prison for a shocking crime. It's got nothing to do with Nigel Farage. This is a random politician that's taken the Kremlin dollar. There are corrupt politicians of every political hue. But it's interesting that the Mirror are going after Farage, linking this guy to Farage, just as the Guardian have been banging on about Farage and what he said when he was a 13-year-old. No one cares. But the reason why the left-wing media are so on the case of Farage is because they are scared of a Farage victory, which is, in my view, inevitable. Sun newspaper, Fergie time. Sarah considers offers for a tell-all TV interview, a six-figure sum for her first chat after losing her title of Duchess of York. Here's a question for you. Do you think that King Charles should dig into his own pocket to accommodate Sarah Ferguson to pay her bills so that she keeps stum? 03444991000. The Guardian, PM urges Farage to root out reform links to Russia. And Zelensky, Ukraine risks losing dignity or US support. The Eye Weekend, PM losing control of Labour MPs before key budget as he promises help on the cost of living. And the Daily Mail. Ukraine, Trump turns the screw. Zelensky's agonising choice as president demands he accepts humiliating peace deal by Thursday or lose US support. Those are the front pages. Next up, it's all going to kick off, folks. We've got our political panel and feathers will fly. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You're listening to Talk Breakfast. It is exactly 18 minutes past 8 in the morning, and a front page splash in the Telegraph. Tories predicted to win just 14 seats at the next general election. Let's get reaction now from Sebastian Salek, Labour councillor, and Matthew Torbett, a former Labour advisor. Well, you both must be grinning like Cheshire cats this morning. I mean, Matthew, why has this happened?
I think we're living in a period where things are very volatile. Also a period, probably more now than ever before, that people hate politicians, and I mean viscerally hate politicians. They have no time, no respect. There's a stereotype of a politician where there's probably a kernel of truth to every stereotype, that they're all cheats, philanderers, liars, millionaires and whatever else. I think largely Liz Truss, genuinely. I think that back end of the fag end of you know, shafting people, specifically with mortgages and otherwise, has left them, I don't think even necessarily disliked, just largely irrelevant now. And I think Reform seem to, at the moment, have filled that right, centre-right sort of gap in the market of offering something not altogether different, but something a bit fresh.
Yeah, but Sebastian, we'd bite your hand off for Liz Truss in number 10 now, wouldn't we?
I don't think so.
Definitely.
No,
I mean,
no.
government borrowing costs were lower then, including after her mini-budget, than they are now. And she wanted to grow the economy, which is what Labour have said they will do, but have summarily failed to do.
Look, every politician wants to grow the economy. Ask anyone with a mortgage or anybody renting from someone with a mortgage whether they prefer Liz Truss or the current government. Look, I think on the topic of the Tories, it's a normal course of action, isn't it? When you lose badly, you go into the wilderness, you have a big rethink, you win the trust of the people again. There is a certain amount of time that has to pass to heal the Tory image, the Tory brand that was so damaged. I mean, I'm a great believer in the Lindy effect, the idea that the longer something has existed, the longer it will continue to exist. And I think the same is the case.
So you don't think they're dead?
I wouldn't write them off. I think they are underpriced in all of this. We're very quick to jump on the hot new thing, which is Reform, but the Tories have a lot of very important things. They have an activist base, they have data, they have volunteers who have spent their lives working for that party. Reform has none of that, and in politics that's really important. The trouble is, if you don't have your head buried in the world of politics every day like we do, you don't see all of that. You just see the gloss on the media, which makes them all look equal. In reality, they're not.
So what is their strategy? Accept a Reform victory in 2029, hope that they'll mess up and then come to the rescue as the sensible party of the right in another 10 years' time?
I don't think so. I think actually if in the era of tactical voting and politics being so divisive, it's totally going to be the government and Reform, and whether it be progressives against regressives or however the number 10 want to paint it, you better believe if Reform falls short, who are they going to do a deal with? It will be the Tories, and in fact the Tories, as much as they will say they won't do, will have to do a deal to remain relevant, because you don't want to be the third or fourth party potentially, depending on how bad things get. I think Sebastian's right that they are underpriced. I wouldn't not engage with them or think that they're a busted flush. I think, without sounding like some sort of party apparatchik, we've got ages. Nigel Farage can definitely beat Nigel Farage and potentially throw a lot of this away, this goodwill of something different and people looking elsewhere. I think whether it be Labour or the Tories changing leader between now and the next election, that means things can change and the country can go on a course correction. I think also, to paint things even more bleakly, everyone is at war, and if there is one thing that makes weak leaders look strong, it is a war. We're apparently very close to that with Russia. You know, America has shown themselves not to be a responsible ally or an ally that we can count on. A lot of things can change over the next few years, and not necessarily for the good either.
I mean, why don't Labour, in order to save their skin, Sebastian, do the things that the country needs, right? Forget about left or right, just have good policies. And those policies would be to close the border so that we don't have the illegal crossings anymore, to scrap net zero because it's pushing up the cost of energy and damaging industry, and to reduce taxes to grow the economy. Why doesn't it do those three things? Because then you don't need Nigel Farage.
That all sounds incredibly seductive to
Good,
a
isn't
certain
it?
ear.
I know,
To
I
a
should be in
certain
charge.
ear.
I'm very
Not
proud
so
of
much.
myself.
But
Let's take an ad break.
But I'm sorry to burst the bubble. It's all so simplistic. You can't just close the border. These people are coming. You have to either deal with them, or you have to deal with them and create disincentives for them to come.
Like
and
a Rwanda plan, for example.
Well, we can get into Rwanda, but that was A, illegal, and B, inhumane.
I don't care about illegal, by the way. I'm actually enthusiastic about breaking international law if it secures our borders.
Are you really?
I don't care, yeah. People talk about... Oh, people talk about our reputation internationally. I couldn't care less. I don't care what the globalists think. I care what my viewers and listeners think, which is the country's less safe because we've got an open border.
But those things are tied up because if we live on the planet, whether we're in a trading bloc with another country or not, we exist on the same ball of whatever we are speeding through space. We have to be able to work with them. And if you erode that trust, you can't work with them. And then people lose out.
Well, sure. And you are right about breaking the law. It does come with it a few logistical challenges, but that's why you exit the ECHR, why you tear up the Human Rights Act and you look again at the Refugee Convention. Do you think Shabana Mahmood might do that? Because she's made some impressive strides in the last few days in regard to immigration.
She has, and I think what she's showing is you don't have to do all of that to fix the problem. She is taking a system that we can all around this table and at home agree is not working for anybody, for the people of Britain or for refugees and asylum seekers, and changing it so that it will. Look, is it going to work? Too early to say, but I think talking about safe routes, talking about allowing asylum seekers to work, that's really important, but also making sure that people who come here contribute and are incentivised to contribute and to integrate. I'm the child of immigrants, not asylum seekers, legal immigrants, but I've seen around me that the way you get on is by becoming part of your community, about getting the most out of Britain, and we have to empower refugees and asylum seekers to do that when they come to this country. We have to give them those opportunities.
I just wonder, a lot of my viewers and listeners, Matthew, would say if you've entered the country illegally, there should be no rehabilitation under any circumstances. You've broken the law.
They might say that. There's also an argument that these people, whether people get angry or not, haven't entered illegally, because it's totally... The 1951 Convention clearly states that you should not be prejudiced against if you make an irregular means of travel. The problem being, if you are a true asylum seeker, and many of your viewers will also have compassion for those that are true asylum seekers from Afghanistan, Ukraine or elsewhere, you are not getting a flight out of Kabul or Kyiv at the moment because there aren't any. Therefore, you are likely to come via some sort of bizarre means like a boat or whatever else way of getting there. So therefore, it isn't illegal, and that's there because of the UN Charter.
They've breached the border and they've come from a safe country, which is France, which makes them economic migrants.
Which is totally an opinion that will carry some level of weight. However, it doesn't mean they're illegal. It's unfortunately,
well, this is semantics, isn't it?
No, that's the law.
They shouldn't, fine, but they shouldn't be here. And if that is the law, then change the law.
Which is fine. That's also a position you can take. But again, the idea that they've broken the law isn't quite strictly true.
Because this is where I'm mystified, and it's great to have both of you here, because I cannot understand why the left do not make the socialist argument for strict border control.
Mark,
because
I don't
see, well, Sebastian, I don't see how 50,000 people entering the country every year, illegally, irregularly, choose your own language, is in any way good for the poor of this country.
Well, the whole point is we are a compassionate nation, I like to think. It's one of the reasons I'm proud to live here and to be from here. And that means that if someone comes from a war-torn country asking for our help...
What, France is a war-torn country?
Well, no, they've come from
Afghanistan,
should stay in France. They've come from Sudan.
Sure, why can't they stay in France?
A lot of them do. The majority of them do not come here.
All of them
Let's be really clear about that. Only a small minority come here.
Well, it's 50,000 people at a cost of 15 billion a year to accommodate them.
The point is, if they come here, we have to put them through a system. We have to put them through a sort where they either, yes, you are genuine, you deserve our help, or no, I'm sorry, you don't meet the criteria, you have to go elsewhere. It is on us to do that.
But going back to it, how does it help the poor of this country, British citizens in our multi-ethnic society who are struggling to make ends meet, not switching the heater on at the moment because it's so cold? How does it help them for 50,000, largely men, to enter the country illegally every year?
See, this is exactly the problem. Why are we choosing to focus our attention on asylum seekers?
Because it costs 15 billion, right, in the budget that could go towards poor people in this country.
But this
15 billion
this
that
is
the
left
mistake. Don't care about.
But this has been made again and again over the centuries. We are scapegoating the weak in our society.
We're not scapegoating.
Well,
I'm explaining
How is
the
it
bill.
possibly not scapegoating?
It's not scapegoating. I'm explaining the bill. The bill, just the accommodation bill alone, for people that enter the country legally, 50,000 a year, is around 15 billion. And of course, many will stay and they will likely be net dependents on the taxpayer for the rest of their lives.
You say likely?
Yeah. For sure.
Do you want to back that up?
Yeah. I'm going to deal with the fake news that they're all doctors, engineers.
I'm not saying that either, but you've made a point.
You
need to back that up with some data.
Well, I can give you the best data of all, which is that even legal net migration is a net cost to the country. If it's people that work in care homes, then they will require in-work benefits, and they'll be using
because they're not
the
paid
welfare
enough.
state. Sure,
that's the issue.
But
workers are underpaid.
Legal net migration is already predominantly a net cost to the exchequer, which is
well, it's not
why,
really though, isn't it? Because
which is
we
why
bring these people in because we need them. If we don't have them, there's nobody in the care home to look after our elderly relatives.
It still costs us money.
But what's the alternative?
But the alternative,
nobody does those jobs, and our grandparents are left to rot at a care home because no one's there to look after them.
I will tell you what we do. We actually use the resources that we're this gerrymandered, propped-up system where people come to the country as cheap labour. Instead, you pay people working care homes properly and train people to do so.
That is a good socialist opinion. I completely agree.
Well, indeed. So, but what we haven't got to is the crux of it, Matthew, which is this compassion of accepting 50,000 people a year and calling them irregular when they've broken the law, in my opinion. What is it? How does it help poor people in this country, 50,000 incomers every year, competing for the state's limited resources?
Whether it helps them or not, I don't know.
Well, you're an intelligent man. It's bad news for poor people. Illegal immigration, because what it does is it thins out the available resources that we've got in this country.
So, well, the resources.
You can't shake your head, Sebastian. It's 15 billion
it's a
just to accommodate
mentality, Mark. It's a complete scarcity
mentality. We don't have
mentality.
the money. Thanks to your brilliant chancellor, the country's broke.
Here's a good.
And now we're going to roll out the red carpet for 50k people a year, which is particularly bad news for the working class of this country.
Sorry, if I can for a moment. There's several things there. There's not a lot of money because of previous governments as well. Let's not just put this at the Chancellor, who's had hard time things to deal with.
She's made it worse.
Yes, and I'm happy to take the thing that we've not done things great. Happy to. Does it help poor people? Possibly not. The last time I looked at figures, and happy to be proven wrong, is that a lot of people that do come here don't put in more than they do take out over the course of a lifetime. But again, happy to be proven wrong.
50,000 illegal immigrants.
Yeah, and
what percentage of those lads are going to be a net beneficiary to the British economy?
I don't know, because they've just got here.
It's going to be a fraction, isn't it?
Well, if we're talking about fractions, and I hate doing this semantics thing because it's not my thing, Mark, I'd rather speak plainly to you. I think the people that come over illegally are about 0.5% of actual immigration. If we're going to talk about immigration potentially pushing down wages or whatever the argument is, it's the legal migration that has been at 1 million a year, which has essentially been open borders or whatever the Labour Party want to call it. I think what would help poorer people is rather than just cutting off a group of people and going, there's money to spare, and let's have it right, money never goes to poor people in this country. I grew up poor and know for a fact nobody gives anyone any money from the government downwards. What I would like us to do is look at a further reindustrialisation strategy, because we used to be a country that used to make things. Now we put them in boxes and send them to places. We don't have an industry in this country. And I think to help poorer people is we have close to 1 million people under the age of 21 who are not in employment, education or training and are totally left on the scrap heap. If I was Labour, which I think they're going to go back and look at, is you need to re-evaluate PIP and universal credit for those with mild mental health conditions and those that are stuck on the scrap heap and could get back into work, and you save about £6 billion with that. You could use £1 billion of that to go into talking therapy, and therefore we're getting people. That is more productive for growth, for bringing back things like 15 billion quid and contribution and whatever else, and that's how I do it. Alongside immigration, you can care about both.
Neither of you are able to give me an argument that not tackling illegal immigration is in any way good news for the poor of this country. And the whole point is that you're on the left. You exist as sort of left-leaning, potentially socialist people who are worried about poverty and inequality. And this is why I think the left have lost the plot, and why they, quite rightly, as characterised by a few people in the media, detest the working class, because open borders are terrible news for those at the bottom end of the economic ladder in this country.
The problem is this argument is being framed completely wrong. Why are we squabbling over who gets what of the pie? Why are we not focused on growing the pie? It's exactly what Matthew says. We should be focused on industrial strategy, many other things.
It's not happening. The economy's shrunk since Labour won the election.
That way may well be.
So this is an unhelpful
I'm arguing a principle here that we should focus on growing the economy rather than trying to throw vulnerable people under the bus.
But you're calling them vulnerable people. They have paid criminals to get on a dinghy.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Cross. So they're not vulnerable.
If that's the only way you can get to Britain, is you have to work with criminals. Who wants to do that? Who wants to get on a boat and come across the channel? It's horribly dangerous.
Why are the left?
Why on earth would you do that?
Why are the left?
Have some compassion. These are people who have gone through some of the most awful things you can imagine.
Not my problem.
That's not who we are in Britain, Mark. We're so much better than that.
Do you realise
so much
this
kinder than that.
conversation is why Labour are just... Forget about the Tories. Labour are done. Because there are people listening to this show that are so angry about the injustice of it. You're framing these people as doctors and engineers who are all going to like start businesses.
That's your
they're
point,
going to be
not mine.
well, no, because you questioned my concerns about how economically productive these folks
because you didn't produce any data to back that up. So for all I know, you've made that up.
Well, what I've got, I haven't made anything up. I'm telling you, they're not doctors and engineers. That's a lie. It's a fraud on the British people.
You're saying that. I'm not saying that. Where
have
you got this idea about doctors and engineers from?
Well, I mean, this is peddled by the left, isn't it?
Not peddled by me. You're talking to me,
Mark,
not the left.
I like it, but this is the stuff I hate. If
Go
you
on.
knew anything about me, you would know I don't hate the working class. I am a member of the working class and always have been. And secondly, no, you said you want someone to give a left-wing version of why this isn't good.
Yeah.
I, for many years, have spoken about why it is not left-wing or patriotic to have your borders wide open.
Right.
I have also tried to put forward ideas within the Labour Party and outside of offshore processing, because my issue is people get angry, not that people are here, it's that they come across in the first place. Don't deport them when they're here. You have to check, because they're not all doctors and engineers. I will happily admit that, always have done. There are many people who've spied an opportunity, who throw their passports in the channel and pretend to be from Afghanistan.
And will seek to work in a black economy, and some of them are criminals and some of them have terror links.
Right, and that's my point. It is not this from a security point of view, but from a compassionate point of view. I don't want to see more people dying in the Channel unnecessarily. And what this does is the economic migrants that come across gives the actual refugees a bad name, and they all get tarred with the same brush.
Agreed.
I've always put forward a left-wing case for basically what is essentially a safe and legal route. The idea that the left more broadly. Don't put me in with Tarquin and whoever else, because that is not my view.
Well, look, this is a great debate, and why I'm so excited to have Sebastian and Matthew here. And this is what talk is about, is that we debate everything. And over to you. I want you to join this conversation and help me process why it is that the left are not more robust on illegal immigration, given the impact it's having on ordinary British people. Because whatever you say about the size of the pie, it shrinks if 50,000 people come here every year and they need accommodation. Sebastian's shaking his head. They have to live somewhere. OK, we pay for that. They need dentistry. They need a mobile phone. They need pocket money. Over 50% will stay. And I doubt that they're all doctors and surgeons. But listen, we'll get to that. I want your calls, 0344 499 1000. It's all kicked off. This is Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
8:36 is the time. You're listening to Talk Breakfast, and I'm joined in the studio by Sebastian Salek and Matthew Torbett. Let's take a call if we can. I know the switchboard is filling up when you're ready. Keir Starmer wants 10 years as Prime Minister. Is he going to get it, Sebastian?
I hope so. And you should believe this, and you should agree with me, even if you hate the idea of Labour or Keir Starmer, because The one thing we need in this country is stability. It's the one thing we haven't had since 2016, and look how things have gone since then. The average tenure of a Prime Minister has been less than 2 years. That's Greek or Italian levels of turnover. What we need is one person who can come in and deliver an agenda, because the clean-up job on this economy is going to take 10 years.
And what does that clean up look like? How do we fix the economy?
Oh, God, if I knew, I'd be sat in number 11 right now. I can't give you the answers.
We come back to earlier.
Yeah.
I think, you know, if I was a big Labour supporter, I'd be like, OK, close the border, cut taxes and scrap net zero. And I think that immediately a lot of the sort of red wall Labour voters will be back on board. I think the reason why you've got to cut taxes is because it grows the economy, and then you can give that money to those at the bottom end of the economic ladder. You're not going to have growth as long as taxes stay this high, are you?
I think sometimes you've got to do unpopular things that are radical, and net zero is a really good example of them, just picking out one of the points you made there. And we have a parallel in London with Sadiq Khan, who brought in ULEZ. That was really criticised at the time. It was a massive radical thing. What an incredible thing to bring in. And then he went and won a historic third term off the back of it. And it's the same with net zero. We're fortunate that the Labour Party has, until probably about 2028, 2029 in power, can set off this huge rebalancing of our energy supply and make sure that more of it comes from renewable energy, which is cheaper, and also we own it. If Russia starts to play silly business, to use a word, we are not impacted by that. And we're starting to see it already. You've got a small handful of schools who've got solar panels on their roofs. They're cutting their bills as a result. And just this week, we've seen Labour announce a full list of 250 of them that are going to benefit from that.
You see, this is, in my view, Matthew, why Labour are at odds with so many of their former voters. You know, this passion for net zero, which is a technocratic, globalist project, which has backfired horribly in Germany, who were all in on green over a decade ago and have the second highest energy prices in Europe, just behind us. Their industries are collapsing because, of course, Germany still make cars and fridges and cookers and all the rest of it. And so you've got, you know, a figure in Sebastian who's all in with net zero, which the public detest, open borders, and an economy that's not based on enterprise and aspiration, but tax and spend.
I think the tax act, net zero isn't my hobby horse. I believe in climate change. I think we should probably have some sort of variance in our energy, and I think we're probably not helped by the fact that we've got a total lack of infrastructure when it comes to renewables, and I think we maybe do need more of that. On the tax stuff, I mean, you'll remember Jeremy Hunt's final budget said that people were paying the lowest tax since 1975 on a personal level, and that was true. The problem is we have essentially stealth taxes. If you're a graduate, because of your student loan repayments, you're paying like a 36% tax rate. If you're a middle-class family with 3 kids, because of the 2-child cap, you're paying like 60% now. This is the problem. And actually, tax levels in individual households actually went down over the last couple of years, I think, by the total, unless you was uber rich. I'd like to see the thresholds come up ever so slightly. I think the problem is, and fiscal drag's been spoken about recently, if you up the minimum wage, I'm all for that. The problem is if the threshold stays the same, you don't get more money, if that makes sense, because you're paying tax a lot quicker. With regards to the project, I think, unfortunately, you know, I saw it. Labour didn't really have a plan on the way in. I think people in the civil service will tell you that now. I think Keir Starmer is a decent enough bloke. I just think, unfortunately, and even, Christ, he lost James O'Brien this week when I was listening to him. He said it himself. I just don't think he's very good at politics. That's the shame of it. And actually, there was a fellow that rang in from Benidorm, which I thought was interesting. And I'd not thought of it in this way. He said he can be totally strong as anything and whatever within his own party. When it comes to removing whips or whatever it might be, he's absolutely vicious. But he's cowardly when it comes to the strong decisions the country needs, whether that be around welfare or whatever. He's held to hostage by his own backbenchers. So I think he's lost the trust of part of his party, a quite large part of his party in the country. And I think the numbers we see in the polls, I think, are irretrievable, to be honest with you.
Ian says if anyone is unfit to lead the UK, it's Starmer. Maggie says, Mark, if Sebastian and Matthew think people are going to vote Labour again, they need to think again. Vote Labour, they must be joking. Nick says, Mark, why have you got 2 lefties on the panel? We need to see blood spilled on the head-to-head. The thing about it is, Nick, right, that what we're going to do is 2 against 1. I'm going to be like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, right, walking through a hail of bullets, and we'll be doing more of that straight after this. And I'm delighted to say we'll be joined by one of the pink ladies protesting against the impact of illegal immigration on the safety of women and girls. That's next.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very special group called the Pink Ladies are gathering in Chelmsford and Essex for a major event today in which they'll be talking about the importance of safety of women and children and how illegal immigration has impacted that. And Sarah White's going to be there. Good morning, Sarah.
Morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. Now, Sarah, why are you going to be in attendance at this event? Why are you a Pink Lady?
Well, first of all, why not be there? Because it is about protecting the safety of women and children in our local communities. And I'm a Pink Lady because in the beginning, we all come out because we was absolutely disgusted to hear about the young girl being sexually assaulted in Epping. And the man was subsequently charged of that crime. So we all need to unite. These crimes are happening far too often. So by Pink Ladies coming together, it's a movement that is led by women, supported by men. And I believe that once the women come out, that's when you know there is a real problem at hand.
Most definitely. And the statistics around migrant crime and migrant sexual crime speak for themselves with, for example, I believe it's people from Afghanistan 20 times more likely to commit a sexual assault.
Yes, this is outrageous, and it's utterly disgusting that our government are welcoming these people with open arms when our veterans were the people that fought against these people to protect us as a nation, and now they're inviting these invaders in. They're allowing them to cross the channel on rubber dinghies, and if our government really cared about us, they would put the Navy in our waters.
Are you anti-immigration as such, Sarah?
No, I'm not anti-immigration, but I'm anti-illegal immigration. I believe that if you want to come here properly, you follow the proper routes. We'll know who you are. You don't drop your papers and come here, because why would you do that? If you are a doctor or an engineer, as some people like to say, well, these doctors and engineers are educated enough to fill out forms to come here correctly.
Most definitely. And who's going to be in attendance today?
So there is myself and Ola, who obviously have been quite prominent at Epping, along with all of the other lovely ladies. But we've got people coming from all over the country. So, you know, it's really great. This is a united front from all of the women. They've really put in so much hard work and time and effort. You know, all of us would love nothing more than to be spending Sunday at home cooking dinner with our families or taking our children to football games, etc. However, we are passionate about what's going on and we need to show support for the local communities. So Chelmsford is our first big demonstration, and then next we'll be heading to Liverpool.
Most definitely. And the important thing is you want change. It's not going to happen anytime soon, though, is it? What do you make of this current administration's approach to the boats?
Well, it's just an insult, to be honest with you, and I don't have any faith in anyone in government at the moment, apart from Rupert Lowe. And I just think that the whole of the government needs a shake-up. We need to attack the government at the root core. You know, if they really cared about the people in our country, they would put us as a priority. Our veterans are sleeping rough on the street, and, you know, women and children are being attacked at an alarming rate. We've never seen attacks like this before, you know, to happen so frequently. And I just believe that if our government really cared about us, they would do something to make us a priority. They would stop.
Have you paid a personal price, Sarah, for becoming a Pink Lady and using your platform in this way?
Yes, I have. I'm under attack on a daily basis now because the platform's obviously growing. I'm forever being called a racist, a far-right fascist thug, a Nazi. And the very people that are calling me a Nazi, isn't it funny? They're the people that are calling for death for Jews in the streets, holding up the Palestinian flags. So the irony in it, they haven't got the brains they were born with. And quite frankly, I can come under attack as much as they want. I'm not going to stop, and I will carry on, as well as the rest of the Pink Ladies.
I passionately support your project. Can I ask you, I mean, have you lost friends over this as well, people closer to you?
Yes, I have. Quite recently, I've lost some of my best friends, and I've also lost my partner as well, because apparently these people can't follow me in the path that I'm taking.
But this is pretty wild, isn't it? I mean, your position is that you don't want people to get on an improvised vessel and cross the channel and infiltrate the country, be accommodated at enormous cost with no background checks. I mean, it's not controversial.
No, it's not controversial at all. It is about the safety and well-being of women and children, and not just women and children, because we're seeing men being attacked as well. It is young, old, rich, poor, women, children, men. It is everybody. Every single person is under attack. But unfortunately, people like to go with what's fashionable. So because there's a lot of people holding up Palestinian flags, a lot of people want to go with that because that's fashionable. If it was fashionable to be a Pink Lady, which in my opinion it is, you know, and we all have common sense and we all want what's great for this country, then, you know, I want people to be honest. I want people to be truthful, and I want people to actually open their eyes and see what's going on, because I love this country, but I loved what it was. I do not love what it is becoming. And it is quite sad, really, that people can't see, or not everyone, but a lot of people can't see what's really going on. And I myself know that my grandchildren can look at me in the future and say, we know that you tried. I would urge everybody out there to think to themselves, do they want their grandchildren saying to them one day, what did you do to help us? Because that's who's really going to be affected by all of this.
And it's not just these awful assaults that happen, which are statistically provable. And of course, that doesn't mean, does it, Sarah, that there aren't wicked people in this country who are British who also commit the crimes, of course, and must be dealt with. The issue is that if we're importing or allowing people to come in who harm British citizens, that is the aggravating factor, is that, yes, we've got criminals here, but there are others who shouldn't even be here in the first place.
Yeah, some of these people have committed terrible, terrible crimes before they've even gotten here. And this is a problem because then it gives a bad reputation for anyone who may be following the correct route. And some people might look at them and go, they're all criminals. We know they're not all criminals. Like we know not everyone who is born and bred in this country is a criminal, because we have our own criminals. Do we have to deal with other people's problems? No, we don't. Have we got enough money to support everyone around the world who wants to come here? No, we don't. We are a little island. We are losing people on an alarming rate that are leaving this country because they fear for the future. I personally would like to keep these people in this country who have been born and bred here and have got businesses and who earn good money, who pay tax into this country. I don't want people who come here and freeload. I have a problem with people that are born and bred here who freeload off of the state because they see it as a convenience. So the problem is we need to take a look at the root core of our government and their policies and legislations, because at the moment they're not running this country like a business.
Well, a powerful word. Sarah, enjoy the event today. More power to you. Thank you for joining us on Talk Breakfast. Sarah White is from the Pink Ladies, and I do think that dovetails, Sebastian and Matthew, with the conversation we were having earlier, which is the concerns of ordinary people, Sebastian, about the consequences of illegal immigration.
Yeah, look, I think we have to be really careful we don't fall into a trap of thinking that all immigrants or all illegal immigrants are
not all.
Some kind of attacker, some kind of sex criminal, whatever you want to call them. And look, I completely respect Sarah's right to protest, and I think it's really good that she's speaking up for women who've been victims of sexual violence. When I look at the numbers and when I look at the testimony of women around me, it's something like 5 out of 6 sex attacks that are done by people who are known to the victims.
Yes.
And I think if you want to have an impact in this area, that is what you should be looking at. It's about educating young men. It's about coming down hard on
this is
kind
a
of
wicked.
attack.
What you've just said is wicked.
Okay, go on.
It's a wicked
Expand.
remark. Because we've always had rape and sexual assault in this country. It's notoriously hard to prosecute because of evidence.
Yeah.
It always will be. So when you say deal with the rapists here, right, that is a distraction. And that is a smokescreen. There are people here harming British citizens, in particular women, who shouldn't be here, and that is the story.
I'm going to stop you there, Mark.
That's the egregious factor.
Do you or do you not think it's important that we deal with the majority of sexual attacks, of rapes, of sexual assaults in this country that come from people who are known to their victims?
I would start with the people that shouldn't be here, actually. I'd put them on the top of the list. I would have someone that's entered the country illegally and thrown their phone in the sea. They would be top of my list for incarceration. I'd start with them.
So you bring them in.
That's not an uncle or a cousin, is it?
No, but hang on. So you're bringing people on the assumption that they're rapists?
No, I would tackle the rapists who enter
but what does that
the country.
But they are being tackled. Hidish Kabatu has been deported now, as he should have been. It was the right thing to do.
It would be nice if they didn't get here and rape first. So what I would do is stop the boats.
So the problem,
and that's why I would have the Rwanda plan.
The problem, Mark, is you don't know if somebody is going to be a rapist in the future, whether they are an asylum seeker or whether they are a British citizen.
If you have no illegal immigrants, then you will reduce the number of sexual assaults in this country.
But hang on, you're working
I don't think that data correlates.
That is
and
a
actually,
fact.
the more frustrating thing, I don't think it is at all.
Well, what about the man at the Epping Hotel who attacked a 14-year-old, which sparked the Epping protest?
Yes,
right? He shouldn't be here.
And this is what the media unfortunately
And then you're worried
does.
about second cousins doing rape and all of that.
This is complete
that's
distraction.
not at all. This is husbands and uncles and brothers, unfortunately.
Sure.
And having supported
But do you
people,
understand?
having supported people
intelligent.
through violence against women and girls and rape, I've been there firsthand.
Sure, but you're both intelligent.
No, you're not going to talk over me on this. We have a pittance, as you've actually alluded to. 1.3% of rapes that are given to the police are charged in this country, lead to a charge against this is why people don't come forward. And actually, the beauty of knowing about these people is the fact that they are charged. In a way, there is a victory of sorts, that these people are deported if they're sentenced to over 12 months and all the rest of it. This is an issue that is absolutely not just imported, but is homegrown. Sebastian is right on this. The fact that if there isn't an issue with our young boys, why is porn corrosive to our young people to the point where 9 out of 10 young people at the age of 15 think choking is normal? What does that lead to?
What you don't accept, right, is my very sensible point, which is that rape and sexual assault are the most wicked crimes which have always been underreported, under-prosecuted, because it's very, very complex for police to put evidence together. It always will be, and I would happily pay more taxes so that these evil crimes done by British people are are prosecuted successfully. But you don't seem, either of you, to process that it's an aggravating factor if someone harms a British woman that shouldn't be here. You will not accept that that's an aggravating factor, and it is, and that's why the pink ladies exist, and that's why the public is so angry.
Of course it's going to annoy people, but I'm annoyed about any sexual abuser, regardless of who they are.
But then what you're doing is not accepting that it's an aggravating factor that they shouldn't be here. Donald Trump was partly swept to power in America in November of last year because there was a woman that did the circuit of public speaking in which she said that her daughter was dead because of somebody that was in America that shouldn't have been.
Well,
and this is why the public are angry about that.
Well, I hope when I take people round who have been sexually assaulted or raped by people from this country that maybe we start getting our own house in order as well.
Do you realise you can do the same? You can do both things.
Which is what I was about to finish my sentence saying, Mark.
But there's a really easy way to stop the unnecessary attacks on women, and also the discomfort of women from groups of men staring.
Are you implying that any attack is necessary?
Well, it's unnecessary if they're here illegally. It didn't need to happen.
I would argue, and call me a radical, but I think any sex attack on a woman is unnecessary.
No.
This should be at 0.
Don't play these games with me,
I'm not playing a game. I'm telling you what I believe.
This is a language semantic thing. People that shouldn't be here are harming British citizens, and that's why Nigel Farage will be Britain's next Prime Minister.
And swathes more people who are here legally are also doing it. The problem is that it's happening full stop.
And you won't
not who is
accept,
doing
and
it.
You guys, you've got no idea how out of touch you are with my audience. Can I? And by the way, millions.
Well, I
of people
hope they've had to go through the awful things I've had to do by supporting people that have been through this.
Who is
I
saying,
really hope
who is
they
saying
are.
that you shouldn't? No one is saying turn off the taps for tackling the evil crimes in this country by British people. That would be like saying let's stop looking for murderers. And
but do you know what? I come with the same energy, regardless of where somebody comes from, than where they happen to have come from.
Do you realise
in the
if you
first
have the
place?
Rwanda plan and you exit the ECHR? No, this is important.
Deep breaths, mate. Deep breaths. We'll get through this.
No, you guys are laughing. You won't be laughing in 4 years' time. Let me explain to you.
Oh, I will. I'll get plenty more work out of it. It doesn't bother me.
If you have the Rwanda plan, and if you exit the ECHR and you stop the boats, then the people that could commit crimes to British people will not be here, and then at that point you focus on the other crimes.
I'll let you go. This ECHR thing needs to be put to bed. 12 times since the 1960s has a case been overturned by the ECHR.
The clock's against us. I love the debate, chaps. Really enjoyed it. Let's do it again. 2 against 1. It was brilliant. Sebastian and Matthew, great job. Thank you so much. Sebastian Salek, Matthew Torbet. It's all about debate. What's your opinion? 03444991000.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Here, is it? Three minutes past 9. I'm Mark Dolan. This is Talk Breakfast. A big hour to come. Breaking this morning, a shock-leaked poll reveals the Conservatives are on course to win just 14 seats at the next election. Is it now Farage's to lose, and is he ready for power? More bad headlines for the BBC as a leading member of the board resigns in fury over the governance of the corporation. Meanwhile, fresh scandal for their biggest show, Strictly. And the authorities in America are now investigating our national state broadcaster over the Donald Trump edited free speech fiasco. We'll get reaction from the former executive editor of the News of the World. And Keir Starmer says he wants another 10 years in power. What planet does he live on? As always, it's all about your opinions. 03444991000. My job is to get your views on the national television and radio airwaves. You can text the word talk and your message to 87222 or drop us a voice note. And as the saying goes, let's talk. And a big reaction to my conversation with Matthew Torbit and Sebastian Salek, both Labour figures. And what I cannot seem to get into the thick skulls of many people on the left in this country is that there is a socialist left-wing argument for border control. Because when people enter the country illegally, it creates competition for resources, which is very bad news for those already dependent on the support of the state that are in this country. Plus, it poses peril to the safety of our citizens, given that a fraction, it may just be a small number, but one is too many, who pose a threat to British people and statistically a threat to women and girls. They don't get it, but what do you think? 03444991000. Hugh says, wow, that Sarah White lady is some lady. She's, of course, one of the pink ladies protesting against women's safety. Heavens, can't Starmer see what he's doing to our country? Mark, what has our country come to when courageous women like the pink ladies are insulted? Tim says, Mark, Sarah is the whole reason I gave 10 years to our country. We need more like this fine lady. And Ian, if anyone's unfit to lead the UK, it is Starmer. Well, I'll get to your calls in just a moment. With me in the studio, I'm delighted to welcome the Whitehall correspondent at the Sun newspaper, Sophia Slay. Hello, Sophia.
Morning.
So much to get through. And, well, can we start with the lead story, which is the Tories, according to the Telegraph, are going to win just 14 seats at the next election. That's based on internal polling conducted by the Tories. They're toast, aren't they?
It's looking pretty bleak. It's remarkable that the anger that is still there against the Tories. I think you feel it when you go and speak to people outside of the bubble that I work in. The feeling on the ground is no one's talking to me about the Conservative Party outside of Westminster, really. They're talking about Nigel Farage, and I think actually, although they're angry with the Tories, a lot of that anger is actually now sort of being planted on Labour as well, and they're sort of being seen as this, monolithic sort of group, right? Tories and Labour, and the hype is Nigel and Reform at the moment.
Most definitely, and I think that Kemi Badenoch is not long for this world. She's a talented politician and a nice lady, but she's not had the cut through, has she? And the policy of listening to everyone and waiting before announcing policies has clearly backfired, because it's given space for Reform to enter that particular debate. So what do you think? It's damage limitation now, isn't it? Managed decline under someone like Robert Jenrick, who just rolls the pitch for a collaboration with Reform?
I mean, that's a potential. I mean, I was actually having this debate earlier in the week with someone, where do the Tories go next? What happens with them? And strangely, I'm saying this now, this could all change, this is the Conservative Party, remember, but there doesn't seem to be, at the moment, that real sort of drive for regicide. You know how they always like to sort of get rid of their leader? They're so predisposed to doing that, but there just doesn't seem, they've really lost their confidence, they're really knocked. But I suppose that is a possibility after May, but it just doesn't seem to have that momentum right now, if I'm honest.
Totally get that. They feel that they're dead in the water and that it's just a case of keep the ship steady or something. And lots of mixed metaphors, but don't press the nuclear button just yet. That's quite interesting. Steve is in Leeds, and we've had a massive debate about immigration in the previous hour. I'm trying to make the left-wing case for border control. Steve, welcome to Talk Breakfast. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Mark. I'm fine. How are you?
Well, I don't know if you caught my exchange with Matthew and Sebastian.
I did. And the elephant in the room that Matthew and Sebastian and other left-wingers never seem to answer or confront is the cultural change that people coming into this country are bringing, and how that's having a detrimental impact on the country as a whole and cohesion. So let me just explain very briefly. A lot of these people that are coming in from radically different cultures that are diametrically opposed to our values aren't changing their cultural views when they come to Britain. So we now have enclaves of areas of Britain where you've got people that think it's acceptable to abuse young white girls, because in the country they come from, if you walk around in a miniskirt, you're fair game. We have people coming in from countries where knife crime is rife, rape is rife, bribery is rife. And what we don't do is sit people down when they arrive and say, right, this is Britain, these are our cultural values. On camera, you're going to sign a document saying you're going to uphold those values, and if you breach them, you get kicked out and you've no recourse to the Human Rights Act. In other words, these people that come in on the boats, time and again, they commit sexual violence, go to court and say, nobody told me I couldn't do that because it's okay where I come from. So we're not sitting these people down and saying, look, you've arrived in Britain, let me tell you the rules of the game. And if you don't abide by the rules, you're out and you've no recourse to the Human Rights Act. Do you agree to that? Sign this document. And then if they do break the rules, we can kick them out straight away. It just amazes me that this country's changing its culture, and the governments, one after the other, are complying with it. We've now got schools teaching Diwali and Eid, but not teaching Easter. We've got the major supermarket cancelling Christmas because we don't want to upset people. We need to stand up to our cultural values and say to people, this is what you need to do, legal or illegal, if you come to Britain. If you can't stand up to that, if you want to engage in FGM, first cousin marriage, forced marriages, honour killings, all these things, that's not who we are. And if you bring that value with you and you want it to be in this country, you need to go back to the country that you came from.
Yes, not to mention Sharia law. Stay with me, Steve. Sophia Slay, I think the political establishment and this current Labour administration do not realise the scale of public anger about this, about a rapidly changing society that no one voted for. Most people are pro-immigration, sensible levels, bringing value to the country, right? I can't think of a single call I've had in 5-6 years on air of anyone saying no immigration. But what's happened to the country, the change in the culture, the economic impact, safety, are all big issues for your readers at The Sun and my viewers and listeners here at Talk.
I think Steve made some really, really good points that reflect what a lot of Brits think. And I went to Denmark earlier this year, at the beginning of the year, and actually, interestingly, we now know the Labour government is looking at what they did. A left-wing government that has brought in very hard-line immigration, asylum policies and things like that. And I think they're a really good model that Britain should look at, and the Labour government should look at, for clamping down on asylum, immigration and things like this, while also making that argument to their voters, to their base. And one of their politicians, the interesting thing he said to me, he said, it's all well and good if you live in West London, right? Immigration's brilliant for you because you get cheap cleaning, cheap services, cheap everything, it's all great for you. But if you live in a former old industrial town in a rural part of the UK where immigration has completely changed the fabric of where you live, the pubs closed down, there's no jobs, and you don't have things in common with your neighbours, of course you're going to get resentments, of course there's going to be conflict and problems. And I think politicians in London, in Westminster, need to get out a little bit more and speak to more of your viewers, really, and people like that who understand what it's done to the fabric of their community.
Yes, and I'll come back to you in a second, Steve, but it breaks your heart because the British people are open and tolerant and have historically felt that diversity was our strength. We've got our Commonwealth links, we eat curry and we drink tea, and the bottom line is that we're an open nation. But that generosity, that open-mindedness, that tolerance has been tested, and now it's going to overcorrect the other way, and Britain will probably become an international pariah if if Farage wins the next election, by quite literally just closing the door, bolting it shut. The truth is that it's the establishment that allowed this to happen. Sophia, just briefly before I come back to Steve, one bone of contention in the last hour with my two guests in the studio was about the issue of the safety of women. The Pink Ladies are currently demonstrating in Chelmsford in Essex, and their argument is that illegal immigration has made British people less safe on the streets. Now, the defence of my two guests is that rape and sexual assault are the most egregious crimes, and statistically, the vast majority is perpetuated by British people with a British passport, who are often known to the victim. Now, of course, I've acknowledged that, and I would happily pay more taxes for more rapists and sexual assault people to actually go to jail. But my argument, and the argument of the Pink Ladies, is that it's an aggravating factor if a British woman is harmed by someone that shouldn't be in the country in the first place.
Oh, totally. I mean, you've seen, I'm from not far from Chelmsford, and you've seen sort of the backlash about what happened in Epping, right? And all of this sort of stuff. I mean, look, I used to be a crime reporter many years ago, and I would go and knock on doors all around London, and I would sort of, you know, pop into business to try and talk to people. And and I'm not going to single out any community, because actually I can think of multiple communities that have views against women that I don't particularly like myself. And men wouldn't look at me in the eyes. They would refuse to speak to me. They might speak to my photographer, who was a man, but they wouldn't speak to me. I mean, that's, you know, I've not experienced anywhere near what other women have been through in this country, but that is just one small example that I have seen on the ground. And
that's men from a non-native British culture, is that right?
Yeah. And that's something that I've experienced. And you know, sort of, hello, how are you? I'm a journalist. Wouldn't talk to me, wouldn't look at me, and I know it's because I'm a woman. So that's something that I have experienced, and I think we should just have, and you made a really good point, Westminster needs to have a really grown-up conversation about integration, because otherwise if you call everyone a bigot, a racist, you're going to end up like what you said, you know, going the other way, right?
And what the left don't seem to understand is that it is an aggravating factor if someone that's not supposed to be here harms a British citizen.
Oh, totally. And it causes resentment, and it causes fury, anger and disagreements between communities that should be getting along, right?
Yeah, that's it. Steve, you get the last word on this.
Yeah, just a quick one on the rape thing. I had an issue with him saying there's more rapes committed by... There's over 250,000 young girls being raped by predominantly foreign nationals in this country. That's more rapes than are done by, you know, family members or whatever, because all those girls are rape victims. You know, you need to include that in the figures. We have imported cultures that don't believe in our values, and it doesn't. Multiculturalism, Mark, just quickly, doesn't work. Name me a country where it's worked. India had partition. 1 million people died because they couldn't live together. It split into 3 countries. Ireland, we had violence for years. Rwanda, the Houthis and the Tutsis. Differing cultures can't live in harmony together. History's taught us that. Look at Lebanon. I remember Lebanon as a paradise of the Mediterranean. Then 1 million Palestinians moved in as refugees, and within 10 years, the country was a basket case, and that has been ever since. Internecine warfare. And we're heading that way if we're not careful. This country will break up into internecine groups, different parts of the country fighting each other, because countries only survive when they have a monoculture where everybody in the country predominantly believes in the same cultural values. And history's shown us that to do otherwise is a folly, and it's going to cause mass deaths and destruction, and the country will fall apart.
Steve, I agree with you, and if you want to talk about nationhood and a monoculture and the importance of that, look no further, Steve, than Ukraine, who have bravely fought a much bigger army in the Russians because they are united around one flag, one national identity, the identity of Ukraine. Steve, what a brilliant call. Please do that again soon. More calls at 9:30. Sophia, the big man there, just mentioned Ukraine, and this matters to readers of The Sun and viewers and listeners to the Mark Dolan show here on Talk, because if they get a peace deal, energy prices will come down, Russia re-enters the G7 economic orbit, the world economy will benefit. It would be good news to have a deal. But the headache that poor old... Well, can you explain the dilemma now facing Volodymyr Zelensky?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say that utopia does sound really nice if we believe that Vladimir Putin is not going to come back for more and will not keep it. I don't have much faith in Vladimir Putin. I think many might look at this deal as a form of appeasement of a dictator. But Who knows? So Zelensky's got a real, probably the worst dilemma he's faced. There's this peace plan on the table, which has been drawn up by America, which is not very favourable to Ukraine, to put it mildly. That is cuts to the army, that is losing territory, that is never joining NATO and things like that. So, look, from their perspective, it's not good. It could bring an end to the war, which would bring all those wonderful things, but my question mark would be, how long does that last with Vladimir Putin at the helm?
Because what the deal is, he's being asked, like you said, to relinquish land, some of which has not even been conquered by Russia in the war, cut his military in half and never enter NATO. This is an emasculation of Ukraine. There is the flip side, which is historians and strategists have told me this will be the forever war, and it's one that Ukraine can't win. So this is a very difficult situation. If Zelensky doesn't take the deal, which Trump wants done by Thursday of next week, then he loses American support, particularly American intelligence, at which point Ukraine goes to a dark place. So it's almost blackmail, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it will be interesting to see what happens. So Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, is in South Africa at the moment and is talking to world leaders about this, and the Europeans are sort of desperately trying to come up with some sort of alternative, soften the blow, make it easier or whatever. So we may see some more movement on this today, but you know, they'll be sort of making noises about, oh, it's good to have a plan on the table, but behind the scenes, the Europeans will not be happy with this plan.
Briefly, Sophia, we know that the Tories are toast, but I think that Sir Keir Starmer's got a haunted look in his eyes. I feel that deep down he knows it's over. In an interview with Beth Rigby, he couldn't commit to not breaking the manifesto pledge about taxes on working people. First of all, do we know what is the mood music there? Are they going to break the manifesto? Are they not? Because it's been in, out, shake it all about so far.
Oh, it's been a mad few weeks. Absolutely bonkers kite flying, bonkers briefings. I've never really seen anything like it. Look, he's been really, really careful sort of not to commit to anything in the run-up to the budget and be really, really careful despite all these sort of mad briefings. I think you might have seen in PMQs, he sort of wouldn't go near the extension to the threshold freezes on income tax. So we're pretty sure that that's going to happen, that they're going to extend the freeze on the thresholds. Which will be grim, and that will drag a lot more people, hundreds of thousands more people, into paying higher rates of income tax. When it comes to breaking the manifesto, I think my gut tells me they're going to try and be clever about it, because no more taxes on working people, and it goes down to that thing. Well, if they extend the freeze on sort of thresholds, they can say, well, we're not increasing the base rate of income tax, so that's not really a tax on working people. The Tories did the extension, so we're just doing a couple more years to raise a few more billion. So I think they will try and sort of fiddle their way out of it, if you know what I mean, with lots of little taxes.
Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, lots of little tax. Well, I say little, they're going to affect a lot of industries and things like that.
Yeah.
But a sort of a smorgasbord of different taxes, and this is not on working people. This is, hitting pensions. This is hitting business, things like that.
There you go, death by 1,000 cuts. Sophia, great to have you in the studio. Sophia Slay is the Whitehall correspondent at The Sun newspaper, which is fantastic, first rate for all of the political scoops. Speaking of The Sun, I'm delighted now to welcome the North East and Yorkshire football reporter at The Sun newspaper, which is #1 for sport, of course, Gary Stonehouse. Gary, top of the morning to you. The Prem is back. Praise the Lord.
Thank goodness, after the longest international break ever.
Oh, please. I'm struggling.
We've got action-packed games all over the country today. Chelsea get us started against Burnley, but they're just not having any luck. Enzo Maresca at the moment, just when he thought Cole Palmer was about to be back from his groin injury, he goes and catches his toe on a door in his house and somehow breaks it, and he's out for at least another 3 games. Liverpool, they really need to win there at home at Forest, but they'll be coming up against Sean Dyche, obviously ex-Everton. He'd love nothing more than to win at Anfield. We've got Rob Edwards down the bottom, taking charge of his first game back at Wolves after his controversial exit from Middlesbrough. They're hosting Crystal Palace. Tough start for him. And then somehow I'm up at St James's Park later to watch Newcastle somehow try and find a way to stop Erling Haaland.
Yes, I know. Bring a bobble hat and a pair of mittens, because it's going to be mightily frosty up there in the northeast, Gary. What about Arsenal? Is it theirs to lose now, the Premier League?
You would think so. Obviously, it's a massive game for them. tomorrow. I think they answered a lot of questions. A couple of weeks ago, I was at St James's when Arsenal teams in the past, once Newcastle had got level, it looked like that was it, game over. They wouldn't have found the win, but they got there, they battled, and they got a last-minute winner. And I think that silenced a lot of critics, and I think that result could prove to be vital come the end of the season. Obviously, we know Tottenham are going to be bang up for it tomorrow, but Arsenal have the advantage of seeing what City, Chelsea, Liverpool, to sort of lesser degree do today, so they'll know exactly what they've got to do tomorrow. Not that they wouldn't be going all out to win anyway, but obviously losing the centre half, big blow for them. But I think they've got the squad this season, and it's certainly them in the driving seat.
Before I let you hit the road and head to the St James's Park Stadium, Gary, is that a Christmas jumper you're wearing?
It's never too early for Christmas. Once this breaks back, the action-packed fixture list is coming now. We're straight into the winter slog, so why not start early? And like you said, it's already Baltic up here.
There you go. Well, it suits you very well. You're a fine figure of a man, Gary. We'll catch up soon. Gary Stonehouse is the North East... oh, you've just deleted his title there. North East and Yorkshire football editor of the Sun newspaper. Don't worry, I've got a magnetic memory. Is it too soon? This is a massive talking point. Is it too soon for the Christmas jumper? It's not even December. Let me know on the text board. Your calls, and next up, more bad headlines for the BBC. Don't go anywhere.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
9:26. Lovely to have your company on Talk Breakfast. Mark Dolan with you until 10. And we've got Alex Phillips coming up at 10. Can't wait for that. She's in for Peter Cardwell, and she'll be chatting about the show in just a moment. Your calls in just a few minutes' time, but more bad headlines for the BBC as a leading member of the board resigns in fury over the governance of the corporation. Meanwhile, fresh scandal for their biggest show, Strictly. And the authorities in America now investigating our national state broadcaster over the Donald Trump edited speech fiasco. Let's get reaction from a man who knows journalism inside out, the former executive editor of the News of the World, an icon of Fleet Street, no less, Neil Wallace. Good morning, Neil.
Good morning, Mark.
This is a hot mess at the BBC, an entirely self-inflicted set of crises.
completely. What is amazing to me this morning is when I think that this resignation from Mr. Banerjee is only the third head to roll over this issue. Now, that is completely staggering when you think of the depth of the problems they face, the depths of the issues they face. And I know these are senior people, but really what you've got here is just another example of how entrenched the BBC is in the way that it operates and the way that it thinks. If you and I walk through the BBC newsroom later this morning, we'll be wading knee deep through copies of The Guardian, copies of the newspaper. You won't see a tabloid in sight, and everybody will be sipping their caramel lattes. What we have here is, I'm afraid, there is simply a culture. There are very, very many great journalists at the BBC, but it is absolutely riddled with a culture, I'm afraid, that has allowed this to happen. And you know what? It's going to happen again. And the problem is, this time, they've taken on or managed to fall foul of the most powerful man in the world, who sees this as a great opportunity for him to make yet more problems, yet more headlines, and dictate what goes on in the world yet again. President Trump is going to go for the BBC like a dog with a bone.
Well, I think that's absolutely right, and it is a hot mess. Unfortunately, we're paying for all of this, Neil. Has the BBC changed in the way that it's run, the culture of the place, compared to when you were editing national newspapers?
Well, there's the problem. They were the same then, and they're pretty much the same now.
Right.
And they simply see no reason to change. They think this is a storm in a teacup, and their reaction, and it will go away, just like they believe that Jimmy Savile went away, that the Hugh Edwards scandal went away. But what you see in all of these things is complacency. You see them thinking, I mean, a common thread throughout many years of the BBC's problems is a guy called Jonathan Munro, who was the deputy to Deborah Turness, who was the head of the BBC News, who resigned. They've just promoted him to be her stand-in. His fingerprints are all over the mess that is the BBC. And yet that's her answer. As I say, just think about this. Can you imagine another industry, actually another media industry, where you could have had this level of disaster, of problems, of self-created problems, where more heads would not have rolled? They continue to refer to the splicing of the President Trump tape as a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It was a conscious decision. And somebody approved that. Or, if it wasn't approved from on high, they need to sack the guy who's in charge, because he wasn't in charge. He wasn't in control of what was going on, of a huge and powerful documentary on a huge and powerful program. Is that guy still, or woman still in office? As far as we're aware, he or she still is. Is whoever did that splice, who came up with the idea, still in place? As far as we know, they still are. Are we still having problems with the reporting of whether it's trans issues or Gaza? Yes. So when is somebody going to get a grip and say, this has to change? We really have to do something about this. Because for instance, I listen to the BBC 4 times a day at least, on the Today programme, the World at One, the PM programme, and BBC News at night. And I must be one of the few still sticking with it, because it is absolutely unbelievable that there is no change. Samir Shah, I'm afraid I had a lot of hope for, who's the chair of the BBC News Board of Trustees, the committee that this Mr. Banerjee has resigned from, is still there. He cannot stay because he has presided over a complete disaster. He has to go. Yeah, you know what? This morning he's still there. And on Monday, he will be sat in front of a parliamentary committee defending this mess. He will say nothing to see here.
You, of course, Neil, before I let you go, you've run massive newsrooms, presided over vast numbers of staff in a big media business. The problem you've got is it's not about, in relation to newspapers, scrapping the editor or other senior figures in management. Within the BBC, you've got thousands of employees, journalists, researchers, reporters, all of whom seem to have a left-wing progressive bias. So the big problem for the BBC is not just a problem at the top, is it? It's cultural.
It is hugely cultural, but you know what? Management is everything. You put people in there. The idea that there is an LGBTQPSRT death somewhere, somebody decided to install that. An incredible idea that you would allow a sort of minority policing unit to be set up in the middle of your newsroom to decide how things were covered. And the very top agreed to the spend of that, agreed to it being put in place for it to have that influence. Somebody decided that. That person, I suspect, is still in their job.
Most definitely. Your point about the leadership and the management being key is very interesting. Hadn't thought about it in that way. Neil, such a treat to have you on the show. Neil is celebrating with his granddaughter this evening. So happy birthday to Neil's granddaughter. Let me tell you, her granddad is a legend. He's the former editor of the News of the World and, of course, one of the icons of the golden era of Fleet Street, Neil Wallace. Next up, the consequences of mass immigration, about which the left are gaslighting you. It's your calls, don't go anywhere.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Should Volodymyr Zelensky give up a chunk of his country that Russia haven't even presided over militarily, halve his army, and promise never to go into NATO in order to get peace across the line? Well, that's what Donald Trump wants. James says, Mark, what would you think if the UK was under attack and Donald Trump steps in and demands that in exchange for peace in the UK, we've got to give up the southeast coastal counties of Kent and Sussex to the invading force? Not only that, but Trump had previously forced us to sign over the rights to our national resources in exchange for security guarantees. James, thank you for that. Joanna in Salisbury, good morning, Mark. Ukraine is not in Starmer or Labour's interest. If the price of fuel comes down, it will scupper Ed Miliband's solar and wind programme. And Rachel Reeves charging EV owners loads of money in her budget too. This from Peter in Lancashire. I've just come back from Lancashire. What a beautiful county it is. Lancaster, great city. Peter says, I will be voting for reform. We've had the Tories and they failed. We have Labour and they are clueless. And Rachel, good morning, Mark. Your Dolan dispatch this morning was brutally accurate. The weekend kicks off at 6 a.m. on Talk Now with the Mark Dolan Show. Rachel, thank you so much for that. I'll get to more of your calls and, more of your texts on that. Let's take a call now. Jackie in Oldham. Good morning, Jackie. Welcome to Talk Breakfast.
Good morning, Mark. Hope you're well.
Listen, I hope you're well. Did you catch my exchange with my studio guests in the last hour, in which they would not accept that if a woman is harmed by an illegal immigrant, that's even worse?
I just despair. I despair at the left for their ideological capture, the fact of that they won't live in reality, and the effects. They have zero compassion for the people of this country who these policies are affecting. They talk about that, you know, Sebastian was talking about we're a compassionate country. We're a compassionate country, but when mass immigration of the volume that we've had starts hurting our own people, then I'm sorry, compassion begins at home. We know for a fact that our living standards, we've had 10 million people migrate to this country since 2002, and GDP per capita has gone down. We're getting poorer, our living standards are dropping, our crime is going up, our communities are changing. We're not seeing any growth. From all this immigration, we're always told, oh, well, it'll increase GDP. Well, we've had mass migration, but GDP isn't increasing. It's just living standards going down. And people are absolutely fed up of the gaslighting and the inability of the left to see what is right in front of their eyes. And I just despair with them.
Yes, I mean, I had this great debate with Matthew and Sebastian, Jackie, and they couldn't understand that I was making a point. It's an aggravating factor if a British citizen is harmed by someone that shouldn't be here, but they would not accept that point.
No, and it's this brainwashing of the left that ideologically, you know, it's virtuous to take care of everybody in the world, but it's not virtuous to take care of British citizens, and their rights in their eyes are less than those that are coming from abroad, and it is not in tune with reality. We are more at risk. We've got lower living standards. We've got demographics changing in front of our eyes, and we never asked for this. We never voted for this, and we've had this enforced on us by a political class that really views the working people of this country with contempt. And this is why people are so angry and so outraged. They don't have the right to change our country before our eyes in this quick amount of time without our consent.
And Jackie, how has daily life changed for you in the course of your life, given these policies that have been inflicted on us? Have you felt it in your daily life?
Yes, I have. You know, I see demographics changing in the place where I live very, very quickly. We've seen, you know, people trying to get on the social housing ladder that have got no chance. We see it with the hospital appointments.
Yeah.
GP appointments, you know, the schools, it all impacts. It has a knock-on effect. So it's not only monetarily that our living standards are going down, we're getting less choice for the services that we pay for.
And of course, the final point, Jackie, is the issue of culture, isn't it? And if there are men entering this country illegally about whose background we don't know, then they could be folk that will wish harm on others. The Pink Ladies are demonstrating in Essex today because they're worried about illegal immigration and its impact on the safety of women and girls. What's your view on that?
I think they're absolutely right, because the fact is we know in the crime figures that there's been an increase in crime. We see it daily in the media. You know, that asylum seekers have committed sexual offences, etc. Why do we put a front door on our houses, Mark? It's because we don't let in people that we don't know, but we think it's all right with the country that we can just have this open borders and bring people in, and it's not safe, it's not fair, and it breaks the social contract.
Jackie, what a powerful call. A real privilege to have you on today's show, and I do hope we get to speak again in the near future. Jackie in Oldham there, speaking from the heart. I think the establishment in this country, they don't get it because they don't live in the real world. They're in an ivory tower in Islington, insulated from the consequences of their fashionable luxury beliefs. Well, I'm an expert in unfashionable beliefs, and I don't care. I've always done that on air, and I always will, and I'll use my platform to speak up for common sense and for ordinary people, of which I count myself one. Folks, lots more to come. This is 9:42. It is Talk Breakfast.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
It's 9:45. This is Talk Breakfast. Thank you so much for your company. Alex Phillips is up at 10, and I'm back tomorrow at 6 a.m. for more fun and frolics. But I'm delighted to say in the studio with me is Alex Phillips and Steve Denyer from Virgin Radio, our friendly sister station.
Good morning.
And
I'm up at 10.
So much to get through. By the way, you're excited about your show today. Loads to go at.
Yeah, I've got stuff coming up when I'm up at 10.
Had a right old ding-dong this morning with Sebastian Salek and Matthew
I
Torbett.
saw them coming out,
Yeah.
and they were like chummy, and they looked quite pleased with themselves. Did they massacre you?
Yeah,
on
well,
air?
no, it was 2 against 1, right? But I'm able to look after myself.
Yeah?
And I was basically like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, walking through a hail of bullets, right? All of them were bouncing off the shield. And you know what that shield is? It is common sense. But anyway, because I couldn't get them to accept the principle that illegal immigration is really bad for the poor of this country because it creates competition for resources, it destroys low economically productive towns, and it threatens the safety of women and girls.
Yeah, but the thing is, when it comes to socialism, where you've got to redistribute wealth, you can't do that if you don't know how many people you're redistributing it among.
No, that's right. And
premise,
it's
it
this
doesn't
idea.
work.
This is the idea of empathy for the rest of the world. It's like, well, that's not actually really the job of the left. They should be worried about poor British people, but they stopped doing that years ago.
Oh, it's
didn't they?
fashionable. It's fashionable to like open borders. That's all it comes down to. There's no logic to it.
Well, look, I'm delighted to say that Steve Daniel will not be saying a word about that because he is politically neutral, because he's a star of Virgin Radio.
We're going to talk about 1996, guys.
Well,
this is an epic year.
And it was not a time riven with angry politics, was it?
We know every week we go back in time, and we really do enjoy this, don't we? We go back in time, we kind of remember. And we're going to talk about the Spice Girls in a moment, and Take That splitting. Did you ever phone the Take That hotline?
Oh, God, I didn't have Take That posters on my wall. I had Formula One drivers. That was the year that Damon Hill won the World Championship, 97 with Jacques
Did you
Villeneuve.
quite fancy Nigel Mansell?
No, I fancied Jacques Villeneuve. He was like the love of my life when I was 14.
See, I think old Mansell.
Obsessed.
Mansell is the personification of the.
That's up there.
It was the masculinity, the moustache.
I mean, I love a bit of Mansell, but he's hardly like a heartthrob, is he?
Well, what it was, it's the moustache and the thick eyebrows does it for me.
Really?
Yeah, a really hirsute gentleman in the eyebrow department. But it was a golden era. 96 was a special year, wasn't it?
It really was. I mean, you know, a couple of years later, you remember the Queen said, I think it was like 92 was Annus Horribilis, but it was this year when all the divorces happened. So Charles and Diana officially got divorced. She lost her title. She became Diana, Princess of Wales. Then you had Andrew and Fergie. They got divorced, although obviously years later, some might say that they kind of got back together. I don't know what was going on
what's
there.
happened to Andrew since, by the way?
Well,
how's he doing?
It's quite a long story.
Not so good, right?
I've got 12 minutes.
He's been cancelled.
But it was all going on with the royal family. It was like the beginning of the end, really, with all those relationships just kind of finishing in this year.
But in a way, it was a sort of important moment because it was closure, wasn't it? Because the problems of the Wales' marriage were also sort of subject of
get some closure.
Oh, a little bit of that quality time, me time. Ferguson also ended her marriage to Andrew, and that was a big thing. But actually, Alex, I don't know if you remember at the time, but the divorce made Princess Diana even more famous.
Yeah, I mean, she was massive. She was huge, wasn't she? I mean, I think I was just started high school in 96. I was a year 7 back then. Yeah. But my memories of high school is just Princess Diana being the biggest news story ever, all the time, on the front page of
and her
paper.
divorcing Charles did not make the story go away, because then she became this solo figure, this global rock star.
Yeah.
It's like, who's she dating at the moment? Whose yacht is she on? Which country is she going to visit? That famous picture, Steve, of her in front of the Taj Mahal.
Yes.
Which was actually just before the divorce.
Yeah.
But it was a kind of very clear message that I'm going it alone.
And 96 was really interesting because we're a year after the Panorama interview, but a year before her death. And it's crazy when you think of it like that, because so much was happening in her life. She just literally had a year left of her life, and it's stunning, isn't it, when you look back at how much was going on with the royal family.
Yes, and she was very in love when she died with Dodi Fayed, son of the disgraced former Harrods owner Muhammad Al Fayed. And she was very, at that point she'd achieved personal happiness. She had freedom, she had some money from the divorce, she had global fame, and a boyfriend she loved, and yet...
And then it was all over a year later. Talking of awful stuff, the Dunblane massacre happened in this year. I think everybody remembers reading the headlines, seeing the pictures of the kids in the classroom. I mean, do you remember Andy Murray? I think he hid in the headmaster's office to get away from the gunman. That one incident, I think most of us who were around then will remember that news drip feeding in. I was working in the newsroom when it was happening, but it changed our gun laws. That one event, handguns were banned after. There's a huge petition to outlaw guns. I think 700,000 people signed this petition after this one event, but it was the most truly shocking event, wasn't it? School kids murdered in their classrooms.
It was devastating, and Dunblane is a beautiful town, and yet when you hear that word
even now that's what you think of, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Certain areas, it's like Hungerford, exactly. These things happen. Lockerbie, another area where these terrible events happen, but the areas are constantly, they're almost kind of marred and tarred by these terrible events, aren't they?
They are, most definitely. So where else do we go in 96?
Shall we go to Euro 96? So this was a massive moment. You often talk about the pride of the nation and stuff. This was huge.
That's one way of putting it.
Always talk about the pride of this nation.
She's a far-right extremist, is what she is.
Oh, yeah, I'm a fascist. I'm a fascist.
When we look back in 96, there was probably the biggest tournament since the World Cup, since we won the World Cup 30 years prior.
Yeah.
So we hosted Euro 96. It was here. Do you remember Chris Evans?
Was that the beginning of the lightning seeds? It's coming.
It was.
Home, that was it. That's where it began.
That was the first release.
That was the very first
before
one.
it was re-recorded. But isn't it amazing that song? So that song came out in Euro 96, but that song is still the nation. It's still.
Haven't they tried to replace it with Sweet Caroline, which I don't know who decided that or where it came from. It's not even British.
It makes
What's it
no
got to
sense.
do with anything?
It's completely the wrong song.
It's totally wrong.
And I'm disappointed by that. But that was also, I mean, Euro 96. I mean, do you remember that when you were at school? But the Gaza and the tears. And just a big moment.
I mean, this was the tournament with Gareth Southgate, and
missing the penalty.
Sorry, was Gaza not in 96?
He was, but the crying happened in 1990.
Okay. Right. Well, you know your onions, don't you?
Goodness me!
I didn't have you down as a footballing expert.
I don't know where this is all coming from.
That's
Someone stop me.
studio by
You should be on
osmosis.
TalkSport. You're going to get hoodwinked by TalkSport and headhunted. So Gaza played. So the tears in 90, but Gaza played in 96. But Gareth Southgate, what happened to him?
Well, so he. Don't ask me technical questions.
No, but it was the big embarrassing moment,
wasn't it? Wasn't it? Because it was the penalty. It was the semi-final. Germany won it, but. That was a defining moment just before 97, what happened in 97 politically, where we started as a nation to get proud. We were going to get onto the Spice Girls now, the Spice Girl power. That wasn't just here. The Spice Girls made it all around the world. They were the Union Jack, the Cool Britannia, the Britpop.
Oh, the 90s was such an elite decade, you know? You had, like, ladettes where all the women were, like, drinking pints and it was, like, Zoe Ball and all of that. And I can't remember anyone being obsessed with racism. We just all rubbed along quite happily.
Correct. We had low-tax economy, relatively high growth. It was just a time of plenty, wasn't it, Alex?
I think mobile phones were sort of beginning to really seep into popular usage.
That's really
people had, like, the car phone, but the little individual Nokias with Snake and stuff.
came in, where you couldn't, it took about 2 days to write out a text because you had to keep touching the button. Do you remember that? I remember getting my first text thinking, I think this thing's going wrong. What is that noise? And then realising that I got a text, sadly, from my mum.
It was a simpler time, though. Like, if I could go back to any decade in history, I'd go back to the 90s.
96 was really good. A really good, solid year. My first job. I didn't have a lot of money, but it was a very happy time.
What did you do?
A journalist for a local paper called the Hendon Times.
Oh, nice. Did you, like, shorthand in a little notepad?
I did. I passed 110 words a minute.
Hey,
that's all right, isn't it?
Did you do shorthand ever, Dolan?
No, I didn't, actually. I only do that on the radio. I don't have any discernible skills, I can't lie. It's all smoke and mirrors, my career. Steve, so you went into journalism. You got real pedigree, haven't you? What about Only Fools and Horses?
So this was the Only Fools and Horses episode that got the most amount of views. It's when the guys became millionaires. Do you remember this?
Yeah, of course I do.
This one episode. I think, let me check, like 28 million people watched this one episode. And it was like in the press, and it was billed to be the finale. Sadly, it wasn't. They continued. They should have finished it with this one episode. And do you remember it ended with Del Boy saying this time, next year we'll be billionaires. And they got the millionaire status. And it's strange, I don't know if you remember the episode, strangely emotional, because they were looking back on their lives and their relationships and where they come from. And it was kind of one of those moments that we don't get anymore, where the whole nation watches the same thing.
I know, again.
And you've got that water cooler, chat and stuff.
How many channels did we have back then?
For four. Because we have 5 in 97. So,
look at his knowledge. He's really isn't he?
Mastermind.
I need to get out more.
Yeah. I just want to see what else is in there.
Although, do you not think it was a mistake to make them millionaires? Because the whole point is that they never quite had enough money.
Exactly.
And I think it's like Tom and Jerry, that Tom should never catch Jerry and keep him.
That's why it should have finished after that episode. That's a lovely point to go, OK, we've been on air throughout the 80s, the 90s, times have changed, the decades have changed. But that was an incredible moment. Take that split up. I want to mention that because people were so damaged about and upset that the Samaritans launched a helpline, which I called for a laugh, and then thought, I better not, and I put the phone down.
Was it really?
It was.
Really?
I was devastated.
Were you at the Hendon Advertiser at that point?
Yes.
Was that a journalistic exercise?
It was. Who is this? But obviously, Robbie left. They fell out. There's a great biopic, Robbie Williams biopic called Better Man, and they look back at all the falling out. They really fell out, but they were the biggest band in the country.
The Big Shock Alex, is that they went on to be very successful without Robbie, which no one saw coming. We thought that was the end of Take That, and they've had multiple tours and albums since.
I love the fact you're trying to talk to me about pop culture. Forget it. I'm like, Dolan, come on.
Were you not a Take That fan?
I think I had an album or something, but I don't know. I basically live under a rock. If it's not a cryptic crossword, politics or Formula One, I really don't care.
And what about music?
Well, it's a Britpop. This was some might say it was the peak of Britpop.
Some might say. Well done,
also the end of it, because bands started falling out. They had it all in '96. Like every single Monday, there was a conveyor belt of brilliant bands. It was just ahead of Chris Evans starting on a Friday night doing TFI Friday. We had,
my God, I love
bands like
TFI
Oasis
Friday.
and Dodgy and Blur and Shed 7 and Divine Comedy and
you can't forget
Reef.
Put Your Hands On.
Incredible band. We were really spoiled. You had all that going on. And then you have the Spice Girls and Take That in the charts at the same time.
It was a golden era.
So
Briefly, I remember
really
Chris Evans was doing his the Radio 1 breakfast show, and then on TFI in the evening.
That's it.
It was just like total media domination.
He was the face of that era.
That's
The
so, do you
face
know
of
what's
the
weird?
90s.
I actually had a dream about Chris Evans last night. I feel like I foretold this conversation.
Was it a grown-up dream, or was it appropriate for a family show?
I'm not going to talk about what went on in that dream. It was weird.
You know what I'll do? I'll hook you up with Chris. He'll be here.
Oh, listen,
he'll be here at 7 a.m. on Monday.
We're 6:30 actually. But we're so proud to.
Have you not heard about the schedule change?
Have him on Virgin Radio to work with him, because they don't make many people like Chris Evans, and he
I
is
remember sitting in
the
makeup
face.
room with him once, and I said, "Please bring back like TFI Friday, just resuscitate
Wouldn't
it."
it be great? I think it would work.
I think he'd love to.
I think
Let's do it on Virgin. Alex, I'm so excited talking about TV formats, because Talk Women is coming. It's going to be huge. This is a talk show, common sense, no nonsense, women on the telly.
There you go. It does what it says on the tin. Women are talking.
It's going to be great, and it's going to be uncensored, isn't it? So is it going to be like Loose Women, but sort of on
kind of.
ITV?
I mean, Loose Women's like, isn't it? It's really woke.